And if they're certainty-driven and you try to change anything, they freak out. They get fearful, or they get angry, or they get pissed off, because what matters most to them is keeping things the same way where they feel like they're in control. Raise your hand if you follow. That's an example. Some people, they value love much more than certainty. Some people value certainty more than love. So even though they love you, if they don't feel certain, they won't open completely. Right? Just as one example. So the difference in people, we all have the same 6 needs. The difference is which of the top 2 you value most out of these 6. Because these top 2 determine your direction in life. And direction, if you keep moving in direction, it leads you to an ultimate destination or destiny. So we want to understand what your top 2 needs are. And same thing with other people. This weekend, when somebody stands up, often I'll say, what's driving them right now? And I want you to see, within a very short time, 8,000 people from 44 countries will all be saying the same thing. Because it'll be that obvious to you. You'll be a practical psychologist by the time we're done here. So now, if we know what these needs are, and a person values them differently, we also have to find out 2 people could have the same need, but they have a different belief about what it takes to be loved. Or a different need about what it takes to be certain. Some people to be certain need $10 billion. Some people to be certain just need to pray to God. Some people to be certain need to feel like they have 3 perfect children and they're there every day. Some people that feel certain because I've always figured it out. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I'll figure it out, because I always have. You can get certainty from your past. You get certainty from God. You get certainty by working out intensely. You get certainty by eating food. Too much food especially will put comfort in your body. If you overeat, all the blood goes in your stomach. You start breathing again. So we all need certainty. The only question is, it number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 on your list? And the second question is, what does your brain say has to happen to be certain? Some people have certainty that's impossible to meet. The young lady over here who was sitting in the chair before we intervened had a blueprint that's never going to be met. It literally would make her unhappy regularly. So we got to know what needs you're after and what's your blueprint. How many get a feeling, at least, what I'm explaining here right now? It makes some sense to you. Say, I. Awesome. So the first need is certainty. How can we meet our need for certainty? We can do it in ways that are positive, neutral, or negative. I can get certainty in a heartbeat if all I want to do is get really pissed off and freaked out about something. When you get angry, do you get certain, yes or no? You better believe it. So some people get angry all the time because it's their way to get certainty in a life that's uncertain. It has all kinds of negative side effects, but it works in the moment. So listen to me now. Most people meet their needs in a way that works in the moment, but not long term. So they feel good for a short time, like a sugar high, and then they drop emotionally, and they got to do it again, whether it's food or smoking or drinking or whatever it is. So you can meet your needs in positive ways, neutral ways, or negative ways. So if I came along here and I said, what's your name, sir? Chase. Chase, I want to make a deal with you. How much do you weigh? 246. We're going to weigh you in 5 minutes. He says he weighs 246. If you're within that range, I'm fine. Here's my deal. I will give you, I'm going to put $50 million US cash tonight into an escrow account for you. They're going to weigh you. If you lose 50 pounds tomorrow morning by 8:30 a.m., you will receive that 50 million, otherwise I get it back. Can you do it? Yes or no? No? Sure you can. Take off a leg, take an arm, we can get your ass there. There's no question, Chase. Is the goal obtainable? Yes or no? Is it achievable? Is it obtainable? Yes or no? But it's not sustainable, and that's how most people meet their needs. They use a drug or alcohol or food or cigarettes or something to get comfortable, to get certainty back. But the problem is it has side effects long term. Works in the short term, doesn't the long term. Raise your hand if you follow. Say I. So you could get certainty by overeating or smoking or drinking. What happens when you smoke a cigarette? Take a deep breath in and you blow it out nice and long and slow, full exhale. When most of you are stressed, how many have noticed that you either stop breathing or you breathe really shallow? How many have noticed this in the past? So you smoke a cigarette, and in the moment, it meets your need for comfort and certainty. It's killing you, but it works short term. That's how most people live their life. You can get certainty by working out. If you go on a run really intensely, or you go lift weights, and you push yourself, and all that blood starts pulsing through you, do you feel certain, yes or no? And what's the downside? Zero. So there are ways to meet your needs that are empowering, neutral, or disempowering. The parts of our life we don't like are problems. Why would we keep a problem? We're all capable of solving it. Why would we keep a problem? The only reason you have a problem that's stuck around is because it meets some of your needs. Not all of them, or you wouldn't want to get rid of it. But enough of them that it makes it hard to give up. It's kind of like, who's ever been in a relationship way too long? Let me see your show of hands. And how many knew it was wrong while you were there? Let me see your show of hands. So why the F did you stay there? Because of the uncertainty. Because, well, I'm not thoroughly happy, I'm kind of unhappy, but I might be worse if I was totally alone. What if this is the best one I'm ever going to get and I screwed it up? But what happened was most of you had that feeling, talked yourself back down into the relationship multiple times until one day you hit a threshold where your brain went, it was painful in the past, it's painful in the present, it's going to be painful in the future, I'm out of here. Who's done this before? Say I. So there is a threshold that we can find, and if we find that threshold, we can break through it pretty damn easily. We can shift, we can get to where we really want to go. So what I want you to get is, of these 6 needs, we all find a way to meet them. The only difference again is which are your top 2 out of the 6, and I've told you certainty so far, and what are your beliefs or rules or what's your blueprint on how to get that. Her blueprint was please everybody, which is impossible, so it won't work. Raise your hand if you follow, okay? So let's take a look. What's the second human need? Well, first of all, you can get certainty in so many ways. You can get certainty by praying to God. You can get certainty by doing a ritual the same way every time. You can get certainty by lowering your expectations, saying nothing ever works, nothing ever will, everybody screws things up. You'll lose your dream, but you'll gain your need. By the way, jot this down. People will give up their goals and dreams to meet their needs. People will give up their goals and dreams. They'll even give up their own values to meet their needs. I'll give you an example. How many of you in this room consider yourself to be an honest person, very honest person? Raise your hand if you consider yourself to be very honest. Raise your hand nice and high. Okay, drop your hand. Raise your hand if you lie. Let me see your hands if you lie. You can explain it to me, will you? Here's how it works. See, in your mind, you know who you are. Why would someone lie who values honesty? No one told you to be honest. You want to be honest. Because if you think being honest is going to cost you one of your needs like love or certainty, you'll lie. You'll call it a white lie, but you'll lie. Who knows what I'm talking about? Now, there's some people that never lie because they value certainty of always telling the truth so much. Right? It has to do with their rules or their belief structures. Does this make sense? So, tell me something. You can meet the need for certainty so many ways, right? So here's the question. You can go ahead. Here's the question. What if you were certain every moment of your life what was going to happen before it happened? What if you knew what people were going to say before they're going to say it? What if you could feel what they're going to feel? What if you knew every moment before it happened what people were going to say and do? In the beginning, that would feel really exciting. But after a while, if you know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, tell me what you're going to feel after a while. What are you going to start to feel? Tell me. What? Bored out of your mind. That's why God, in her infinite wisdom, gave us a second human need. And that second human need is uncertainty. We have a need for uncertainty. We have a need for surprise. We have a need for variety. In fact, what's the phrase? Variety is the what of life? Spice of life. Now, how many of you in this room, raise your hand, how many of you in this room love surprises? Raise your hand if you love them. Say aye. Bullshit. You love the surprises you want. The surprises you don't want, you don't want. You call them problems, don't you? So don't tell me you like surprises. You like the surprises you want. Here's my point. Can you meet more than one need with the same action or emotion or belief system? Yes or no? Write this down. Anytime your mind perceives that doing something, anytime your mind perceives that doing something, believing something, or feeling something meets at least 3 of your needs, so anytime your mind perceives that doing something, feeling something, or believing something meets at least 3 of your needs, then you will become addicted to that thought, that feeling, that emotion, or that action. You can be positively addicted or negatively addicted, but you're going to be addicted. Anytime your brain perceives that something you believe, do, or feel meets 3 of your needs, you'll get addicted to it. Now, I'm going to show you why this is important. Let's look at 2 needs for a second. Is it possible to meet your need for certainty and uncertainty simultaneously, even though they're opposite needs, yes or no? I'll give you an example. Who here has ever rented a movie that you've already seen? Let me see a show of hands. Get a life. Now, I've done it too. Why would we rent a movie we've already seen? We'd rent it, why? Because we've seen it before, so we're certain it's good, and we're hoping it's been so long we forgot enough it'll be variety when we watch it again. Who knows what I'm talking about here? Say I. So you can meet both needs, but if you meet 3 needs, you will become addicted to that behavior. Whether it's a good behavior or bad behavior, doesn't matter. It'll be a positive addiction or negative addiction, but you'll be addicted. So let me give you how do you get variety? You get variety in positive ways, negative ways, or neutral ways. You get variety by learning, growing, taking on a new goal, a new challenge. You can get variety through a conversation with a friend. You get variety by praying to God. There's so many ways to get variety, aren't there? But you can also get variety in negative ways. You can smoke a joint, and maybe that's not a negative way, but it sure will change your state. But it has side effects, right? During that time, you're not going to function maybe at the same peak or understanding. Or some people use other things, cigarettes, alcohol, anything. There's so many ways to get variety. The question is, are your ways positive, neutral, negative, or empowering? How many follow? Because we all have ways of getting that variety, that uncertainty. So here's what I want you to do. 3rd human need is significance. The need to feel unique, the need to feel special. Yes, I hope that picture makes you feel special. Okay? The need to feel unique, special, important. Who has the need to be needed, to feel special, unique, and important? Who do you think has that need? Who has it? Tell me who. What about people who say, I don't want to be special? Do they still want to be special, yes or no?
Yes, greetings to ones and ones out there still. First, big respect to goes out to the master jammers. As you know, it's the King of Kings and the Lords of Lords, the conquering Lion of Judah. First of all, I'm big him up to the max. One of my closest brethren, you know. And you know, it's a serious brother. You know, right now he's leaving there, he's got some other commitments, some work commitment, you know, constantly doing workshop, presentation. He's a lecturer, he's a teacher, see, and he's a writer, author, you know, he's a DJ, he's a poet, he's a comedian, and well, I don't know what to say because this is a man, and also he's on a serious mission, you know. Serious mission also make people laugh. He's got a special talent, you know, and this brother, me and him will be friends until death overtake us, because that's so committed to my brethren jammers. See, so nothing but thanks and praise to the Most High. Give thanks to this powerful radio station. We do have some esteemed guests who will be passing through, will be reasoning about the whole thing about Africa. See, so enough little reason about it. Yes. As we was talking about the 6 human needs, that was by Anthony Robbins. And I want to do a presentation around the 6 human needs. Big up yourself, drummers, every time. I want to do a presentation around the 6 human needs and just break that down, because that's something I feel I need to talk about and have a conversation around the 6 human needs. See? Okay. So people want to phone in. The number to phone in on 079 444 31366. I repeat, 079 444 31366. So you can open the live link line in about 10-15 minutes, where people can phone in and contribute to the show. We will have Brother Jeff, who will be touching the whole thing about the motherland scene, and he's been there a few times, and he'll be talking about the experience. I think they'll be doing a trip to Senegal or some part of the continent, but he will clarify when he arrives soon in the studio. And we're going to do a review of what took place last week Friday at the Chestnut Community Center. Really went down as a bomb. You know, enough people passed through. In fact, we get more cheers. That's a good sign. That shit. And you know when people start talking and start reasoning, you know, people just reason and feel the vibes, and it was a lovely vibes. You know, really nice. This is what we want to encourage every month, that people come together and we reason. But mind you, we was talking about effective parenting. And one thing we will be doing is organize a subcommittee group where we look at that group. We firstly look at solutions. We have to look at solutions. You know, as well, all these things are coming up. We have to have some kind of solution and support. Yeah.
But when something meets more of your needs, it's effortless. If you want to know what the biggest addiction is in our culture, it's not alcohol, it's not some form of prescription drug, it's not an illicit drug, it's problems. Because problems allow us to try to deal with our deepest fear that we're not enough and we won't be loved, by saying it's not me, it's this problem. It's just that I have ADHD. It's just that I've been through this. It's just, so most people meet their needs through problems. Unfortunately, they don't meet their deepest needs, because up until now, we've described the first 4 needs, which are the basic needs of your personality. But everyone, by the way, finds a way to meet these first 4 needs. Even if to lie to yourself, if you got to work 20-hour days, you will find a way to meet your need for certainty, uncertainty, significance. Even if it's just you have worse problems than anybody else, connection to yourself, you will find a way. But the final 2 needs are the needs that create fulfillment, and they are the spiritual needs, not religious, but spiritual. The 5th human need is growth. We've already said it. We grow or we rut. There's no way around it. If your business isn't growing, it's dying. If your relationship isn't growing, it's dying. There are no plateaus in this life. Who's with me here? Say aye. So growth is life. And if you want a one-word key to happiness, I'll give it to you right now, because it's real obvious, having worked with millions of people. Progress equals happiness. If you're not even where you want to be, You're still overweight. You're still financially struggling. You're still not where you want to be in your career, but you start working out. You haven't lost the weight yet, but you start feeling better. You start making progress. Or you start to change that business. Still not there yet, but you're making progress. Or change that relationship, or change your body, or change your health. Anytime you start making progress, your happiness will go through the roof. Anytime you achieve things and you don't set up something new to go for quickly, you'll lose momentum, and in a short time you won't be so happy. Because the law of familiarity will come in, and this thing that once was this big dream will now just be something that you're used to. So the purpose of a goal is not to get the goal. The purpose of a goal is who we become to achieve it. What you get will never make you happy. Who you become will make you very happy or very sad, depending upon how you approach it and what you do with your life. So our approach here is we want to grow. And then the sixth human need is the need for contribution, the need to step out of ourselves. See, how many of you in this room, when something great happens, how many of you can't help yourself, you immediately want to share that with somebody you love? How many immediately that's your first thought? Say, I. Why? Because you can only feel so much yourself. I don't care if it's sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever it is, there's only so much pleasure you can internally have. You want to share that concert with someone. You want to share that experience with someone, because by sharing it becomes more. It's more than just you. Growth and contribution are our fifth and sixth needs. They are our spiritual needs. They are the needs that fulfill us. Everybody finds a way to feel somewhat certain, some variety, some significance, even if they got to tear people down, some connection. But very few people grow continuously and contribute continuously, which is where all the joy is. How many follow here? Say I. So, we're going to make a couple distinctions. But first of all, can you meet somebody and in a few minutes start to pick up which needs might be driving them most? Yes or no? Yes or no? Of course you can. In fact, I'll give you an example. I was flying, I don't know, this was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. I was flying this small plane across the country, and I was being the pilot. And I landed in Kansas City. And I landed in Kansas. And I'm in this little airport in Kansas, and I get out of the plane, and this young man comes running out, and he's like so enthusiastic and so, just such a sweet, good soul. You know, you immediately got a great hit off this kid. And he says, what can I do for you? I told him I'm just flying through, I just need to refuel. He goes, how much do you need? I said, just fill her up. He goes, no problem, I leave. As I leave him, come around the plane to walk up the steps to go into the FBO, the fixed-based operation where I'm stopping for the moment, I'm going to go up and use the facilities, and there's a young girl sitting on the stairs here, and she looks really intense. She's gothic, you know, that goth makeup. She's got, I don't remember the exact number, but like 15 earrings on one ear, one through the nose, really intense looking little character. So I noticed her on the way in, and as I walk up the steps, I walk by her and go inside, and when I came back out, the steps are really wide, so I sat on the step just beside her. She's like one person away, and she looks up at me and goes, what do you want? I said, what do you want? She said, nothing. I said, nothing. And then we just sat there. She's like, in her space. And I said, actually, there is something I'd like to know. I said, you don't have to tell me, but I'm going to leave here in a few minutes. You're never going to meet me again. Is that your boyfriend out there? She goes, well, sort of. Like she wants him to be, right? And I said, that's nice. I said, he seems like a really, really nice kid. He's not nice. He's strong, she tells me. I said, okay, well, I think he's strong and nice. She said, well, maybe he is. I said, I'm going to leave in a couple minutes, but I'm just curious. I said, how old are you? She goes, what does it matter? I said, it doesn't, and I'm about to leave, so why don't you tell me? She said, I'm 13, and I about fell over. I mean, this girl, 17 be the youngest I put her, totally made, makeup made up in every detail, right? So I'm like, wow. She goes, are you surprised? I said, yeah, I'm really surprised. She goes, did you think I was older? I said, yeah. I said, and that kind of saddened me a little bit for you. She said, what? I said, I don't know. I said, I'm curious. I'm going to leave here in a few minutes. She goes, you're curious about a lot of things. I said, I am. I said, how come, and I'm making up the number, it may have been 13, but it was more than 12. How comes 13 or 15 earrings? And she says to me, because everybody else has 5. Now, if I don't tell you anything else about this young lady, What would you say is the number one need that's driving her at this stage of her life right now? Nice and loud, go. Which one, nice and loud? How many said significance? Raise your hand. Absolutely right. You can see it easily. But people are driven by more than one thing. And as I'm watching her in this really tough-ass approach and thinking about how she's adapted to be unique and significant, I look down and I see she has a keychain, and it's a Tigger keychain. You know Tigger, the Disney character, Winnie the Pooh Tigger. And I go, cool keychain. And she goes, yeah. And all of a sudden I saw a little girl there for a second. And I said, Tigger, I said, where'd you get that? She goes, well, my dad got it for me. And she, all of a sudden, there's a 13-year-old girl there. It's totally amazing. And I said, really? She goes, yeah, I really love Tigger. I even have Tigger curtains, and I have a Tigger sheets. I mean, it's embarrassing, but I love Tigger. So tell me something. This woman's need, she meets her need for significance by doing what? Being gothic, being different than everybody else, 15 earrings, tough ass, makeup. But she's still a little girl, and she has another need called certainty and comfort. And where does she get that? Tigger and her dad. And you can see it right there in front of you. After this weekend, you will never see the world the same way if you stay awake. Instead of seeing people's behaviors, you're going to see their attempts to meet their needs. And when people do stupid things, they're just starving to meet their needs, and they're finding something that isn't very effective, or it's effective short term, but hurts them long term. And because you've done this, you can have compassion. How many of you have something on your list, more than one, where you're doing dumbass things to meet some of your needs, and even though it doesn't meet all your needs, it meets some of them, and so you keep doing it? Let me see your hands here. Say, aye. So we want to shift that.
The Tony Robbins Podcast is directed by Tony Robbins and hosted by Anna Yorg. Carrie Song is our executive producer. Tyler Culbertson is our associate producer. Jamie Carvajal and Adriel De La Torre are our digital editors. Special thanks to Diane Adcock and Mary Buckheit for their creative review. Copyright Robbins Research International.
You've invested a lot in your education, and people have invested in you. And let me tell you, the world needs your talents. Man, does it ever. The world needs a lot, and we need it from you. We really do. We need it from you young people. I mean, I'm not speaking for the rest of us up here, but I know I'm getting a little grayer. We need it from you, the young people, because remember this. So you got to get out there. You got to give it everything you got, whether it's your time, your talent, your prayers, or your treasures. Because remember this, you will never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. I'll say it again. You will never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. You can't take it with you. The Egyptians tried it, and all they got was robbed. So the question is, what are you going to do with what you have? I'm not talking about how much you have. Some of you are business majors, some of you are theologians, nurses, sociologists. Some of you have money, some of you have patience, some of you have kindness, some of you have love, some of you have the gift of long suffering. Whatever it is, whatever your gift is, what are you going to do with what you have? Fail big. That's right. Fail big. Today is the beginning of the rest of your life, and it can be very frightening. It's a new world out there. It's a mean world out there, and you only live once. So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances professionally. Don't be afraid to fail. There's an old IQ test, was 9 dots, and you had to draw 5 lines with a pencil within these 9 dots without lifting the pencil. The only way to do it was to go outside the box. So don't be afraid to go outside the box. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big, to dream big. But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. So have dreams, but have goals, life goals, yearly goals, monthly goals, daily goals. I try to give myself a goal every day. Sometimes it's just to not curse somebody out. Simple goals, but have goals. And understand that to achieve these goals, you must apply discipline and consistency. In order to achieve your goals, you must apply discipline, which you have already done, and consistency every day, not just on Tuesday and miss a few days. You have to work at it every day. You have to plan every day. You've heard the saying, we don't plan to fail, we fail to plan. Hard work works. Working really hard is what successful people do. And in this text, tweet, twerk world that you've grown up in, remember, just because you're doing a lot more doesn't mean you're getting a lot more done. Remember that. Just because you're doing a lot more doesn't mean you're getting a lot more done. Don't confuse movement with progress. My mother told me, she said, yeah, because you can run in place all the time and never get anywhere. So continue to strive, continue to have goals, continue to progress. I found that nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Nothing. Nelson Mandela said, there is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that's less than the one you're capable of living. Now, I'm sure in your experiences in school and applying to college and picking your major and deciding what you want to do with life, I'm sure people have told you to make sure you have something to fall back on. Make sure you got something to fall back on, honey. But I never understood that concept, having something to fall back on. If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything except my faith. I want to fall forward. I figure at least this way I'll see what I'm going to hit. Fall forward. This is what I mean. Reggie Jackson struck out 2,600 times in his career, the most in the history of baseball. But you don't hear about the strikeouts. People remember the home runs. Fall forward. Thomas Edison conducted 1,000 failed experiments. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Because the 1,001st was the light bulb. Fall forward. Every failed experiment is one step closer to success. You've got to take risks, and I'm sure you've probably heard that before, but I want to talk to you about why that's so important. I got 3 reasons, and then you can pick up your iPhones. First, you will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. You will suck at something. There's no doubt about it. And I know that's probably not a traditional message for a graduation ceremony, but hey, I'm telling you, embrace it, because it's inevitable. And I should know. In the acting business, you fail all the time. Early on in my career, I auditioned for a part in a Broadway musical. Perfect role for me, I thought, except for the fact that I can't sing. I didn't get the job. But here's the thing. I didn't quit. I didn't fall back. I walked out of there to prepare for the next audition, and the next audition, and the next audition. I prayed. I prayed, and I prayed. But I continued to fail, and fail, and fail. But it didn't matter, because you know what? There's an old saying, you hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later you're going to get a haircut. So you will catch a break, and I did catch a break. Last year, I did a play called Fences on Broadway. That's someone talked about it. Won the Tony Award. And I didn't have to sing, by the way. But here's the kicker. It was at the Court Theater. It was at the same theater that I failed that first audition 30 years prior. The point is, and I'll pick up the pace, the point is every graduate here today has the training and the talent to succeed. But do you have the guts to fail? Here's my second point about failure. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. I'll say it again. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. My wife told me this great expression. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did. Les Brown's a motivational speaker. He made an analogy about this. He says, imagine you're on your deathbed, and standing around your deathbed are the ghosts representing your unfulfilled potential. The ghost of the ideas you never acted on. The ghost of the talents you didn't use. And they're standing around your bed, angry, disappointed, and upset. They say, we came to you because you could have brought us to life, they say. And now we have to go to the grave together. So I ask you today, how many ghosts are going to be around your bed when your time comes? Not only take risks, but to be open to life, to accept new views, and to be open to new opinions, to be willing to speak at a commencement at one of the best universities in the country, even though you're scared stiff. While it may be frightening, it will also be rewarding. Because the chances you take, the people you meet, the people you love, the faith that you have, that's what's going to define you. Never be discouraged. Never hold back. Give everything you got. And when you fall throughout life, and remember this, fall forward. Say thank you for grace. Thank you for mercy. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for wisdom. Thank you for parents. Thank you for love. Thank you for kindness. Thank you for humility. Thank you for peace. Thank you for prosperity. Say thank you in advance for what's already yours. That's how I live my life. That's why I am, one of the reasons why I am today. Say thank you in advance for what is already yours. True desire in the heart for anything good is God's proof to you sent beforehand to indicate that it's yours already. I'll say it again. True desire in the heart, that itch that you have, whatever it is you want to do, that thing that you want to do to help others and to grow and to make money, that desire, that itch, that's God's proof to you, sent beforehand already to indicate that it's yours. And anything you want good, you can have. So claim it. Work hard to get it. When you get it, reach back. Pull someone else up. Each one, teach one. Don't just aspire to make a living. Aspire to make a difference.
whatever people do, they always have a reason. They may not be aware of the reason consciously, but there's always a reason. If someone tries to commit suicide, there's a reason. If someone tries to hurt someone else, there's a reason. If someone is willing to work 18-hour days, there's a reason. If someone doesn't want to work, there's a reason. And here's the good news. Having dealt with literally tens of millions of people from one is the need for certainty. Certainty. Now what the hell is certainty? Certainty is a survival need. We all need to feel certain that we can avoid pain and that ideally we can have some comfort. Why? Because continuous pain would mean continuous damage. Continuous damage eventually means death. So the need for certainty is built into every human being. And I'm going to show you now in the next few minutes, if you stay with me, and I really need you to, so make sure you sit up in your chair and focused on this area, because after this we're going to kick in gear again, but right now you got to take this in. It'll be so valuable, not just for this weekend, but for your life. All human beings have the same 6 needs, so why do we behave differently? Because the only thing different in people is 2 things. We all have the same 6 needs, but we don't value them equally. Some people's certainty is the number one thing they value. And if they're certainty driven and you try to change anything, they freak out. They get fearful, or they get angry, or they get pissed off, because what matters most to them is keeping things the same way where they feel like they're in control. Raise your hand if you follow. That's an example. Some people, they value love much more than certainty. Some people value certainty more than love. So even though they love you, if they don't feel certain, they won't open completely. All right, just as one example. So the difference in people, we all have the same 6 needs. The difference is which of the top 2 you value most out of these 6. Because these top 2 determine your direction in life. And direction, if you keep moving in direction, it leads you to an ultimate destination or destiny. So we want to understand what your top 2 needs are. And same thing with other people. This weekend, when somebody stands up, often I'll say, what's driving them right now? And I want you to see, within a very short time, 8,000 people from 44 countries will all be saying the same thing. Because it'll be that obvious to you. You'll be a practical psychologist by the time we're done here. So now, if we know what these needs are, and a person values them differently, we also have to find out 2 people could have the same need, but they have a different belief about what it takes to be loved, or a different need about what it takes to be certain. Some people to be certain need $10 billion. Some people to be certain just need to pray to God. Some people to be certain need to feel like they have 3 perfect children and they're there every day. Some people that feel certain because I've always figured it out. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I'll figure it out, because I always have. You can get certainty from your past. You get certainty from God. You get certainty by working out intensely. You get certainty by eating food. Too much food especially will put comfort in your body. If you overeat, all the blood goes in your stomach. You start breathing again. So we all need certainty. The only question is, it number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 on your list? And the second question is, what does your brain say has to happen to be certain? Some people have certainty that's impossible to meet. The young lady over here who was sitting in the chair before we intervened had a blueprint that's never going to be met. it literally would make her unhappy regularly. So we got to know what needs you're after and what's your blueprint. How many get a feeling at least when I'm explaining it right now? It makes some sense to you. Say, ah.
Yes, greetings and greetings and greetings. So again, big up to the. It's really Jam's show really, but for some reason I'm sitting in because Jammers is all over the place working. He's a DJ, he's a lecturer, author. So yes, I think I can rightly say this is my show now. See, anyway, we'll go straight into the armchairs now. I have a beautiful brother inside the house, And he'll be touching the other thing about Kwanzaa. So this time of the year, we have the Kwanzaa celebration, which starts from the 26th to the 1st of January. And Kwanzaa means the first fruit. And this is quite timely because it's only right that we talk about Kwanzaa, because not many people, and some people might heard the word, right, but they're not familiar with Kwanzaa. And Kwanzaa's been going for more than, and Taharkah would correct me, at least more than 30 years. At least, what, longer than 30 years?
Well, in this country, a bit more,
About 40 years, you see.
Hopefully it was founded in 66.
Oh, see what I'm saying? So that just shows you, and it's celebrated, all over the world. Now it's definitely big in America and some part of Africa. It might be celebrated slightly different on the motherland, but Taharkah will probably correct me more. But the point I'm making, it is celebrated, and yet again, a good handful of people still don't know what Kwanzaa is. See, and there should be a drive to educate people out there about Kwanzaa. At least get to know about Kwanzaa, and at least visit, observe, go there and observe, and it's something we should practice, in our home, as a family, as a community, and go in the wider community as well, because there's so much substance into the into the Kwanzaa, and we get head around that, we've been a stronger, culturally stronger position, definitely, in years to come, because it's all about practicing our culture. There's certain principle, we could take that on and practice that. See, so it's really in depth, So I'm glad to say Taharkah is going to talk about Kwanzaa, because if I'm not mistaken, when I first got involved in the conscious scene, so to speak, Taharkah was one of my music. See, you know what I mean? As a bigger man, a bigger senior man in the conscious scene, because I was a little baby, and then when I senior man, look on them man, and I'm do some big presentation and talking about certain things, In fact, he's the first man we see talk about Malcolm X. Never forget that, at the West Indian Culture Center. And them time I just had a book on Malcolm X. Again, not very little. Man give big talk about Malcolm X, and it's true, I get to understand a bit more about Malcolm X, and through Head Start and PSM, then I understand more about Honorable Malcolm Sy Garvey, because he's my brother called Gobbin. I remember them days there, probably once a month or once every so often, he used to, probably every 6 weeks, he used to speak a lot around at Head Start, and I remember Sister Gosmo used to speak at Head Start once a month, talking about history. See, so it's true, man like Taharkah, who kind of help my consciousness, help me, when a man just is there and he just need to be moved along a little bit. The man able to move, a very slow pace at them time there, because like I said, I'm just finding myself, and it was all fascinating because them time I was in something totally different, into, people must come together and unite, black and white, and I was following that Martin Luther King and all that stuff, and now I can say nothing wrong with it, but I didn't know better, to be honest with you, until you get some beaten by Malcolm X in my head. Black consciousness start slap up a little bit, wake me up a little bit, and shake me up a little bit. Anyway, Taharkah, be wise, just give a little background about yourself, and I would like to talk about the Kwanzaa, because I think that's very important that we touch it now, and I'm glad to you come, because it's the right timing. Give a little background about yourself, and and what you're doing and stuff.
Okay.
Probably speak to the mic.
Well, greetings, everybody. It's nice to be here with Brother Dougie again and Bless Radio, and I big up all these independent radio stations. Doing a great job getting the news across. While we have them, we know we as a people can get our voice heard the right way. We don't need to go through no detour and have our voice all distorted and our message distorted. We can go live and direct as we are doing right now. Now, a bit about myself. I've been involved in what I would say the Pan-African movement for a long time. It all started in Birmingham, say in the late 80s, early 90s, when I came across an organization in Handsworth, Birmingham, known as the African Caribbean Self-Help Organization. And from the day I walked through those doors at 104, I can truly say I've never looked back. Really, really changed my whole outlook to life. It actually changed my life. It was via the African Caribbean Self-Help Organization that I came across the Pan-African Congress movement. And through those organizations, I truly can say I've really grown and matured, and now I totally embrace the concept of Pan-Africanism. And Kwanzaa is part and parcel of Pan-Africanism. Now Kwanzaa, the word Kwanzaa itself actually means the first fruits.
First fruits, yeah.
It's a Kiswahili word. And Kwanzaa was first brought about by Dr. Malana Karanga of the OS organization in 1966. Now, Karanga was a professor based at, I think, the University of California. And basically, he observed around him that our people were some way lost. When it came to cultural celebration, it's like we were modeled. I mean, we would adopt a celebration like Easter and try to make it our own. We'll take celebration like Christmas and try to put a African, twist to it. But as we know, those things are not coming from us. Therefore, they're not truly African. Therefore, try as hard as we might, we could not really get into it. We did not feel the vibes. There was something missing when we celebrate what I would term these pagan festivals, which they truly are. Because if you look at the history to Easter and history to Christmas, we can see they truly came out of the pagan world. So Karanga thought, what can I do? And what mechanism can I put in place to help get our people back on the right track? And remember, at the time, he was mainly talking to Africans in America, in California, where he was. Seeing the madness and the mayhem around him, he thought definitely something needed to be done. So what Karanga did, he took a tour right across Africa. And he came back bristling with ideas. And out of all that came the celebration of Kwanzaa. Like I said, Kwanzaa means the first fruits. And Kwanzaa is based around 7 principles. And those principles are known as the Nguzo Saba. Nguzo Saba is basically Kiswahili, meaning the 7 principles. And each of those principles are key fundamental things that Karanga put across. And if we were to follow those principles, not just for the 7 days of Kwanzaa, but right throughout the year, and truly keep to them, then we'll find that we will have shifted ourselves back onto an African spiritual plane. A plane that we have left or was taken away from us,
like we said that
for many, many years.
Good job, yeah.
And we have always been trying to get back, because we just have to look at people like Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. We have to look at people like Nani, to look at people like Paul Bodle, Sam Sharp. Those are just a few names of people who was always looking into the future with Afrocentric eyes. And one of the things we must not remember is that even those of us who was not taken out of the continent of Africa, there's still a lot of them went through colonial experience, which also damaged them to a certain extent. So, as Taharkah said, Kwanzaa is not just for African Americans, so-called. Kwanzaa is for Africans worldwide. And wherever you go in the African world, you will see certain aspects of Kwanzaa, because what Taharkah did, he took elements right across cultures throughout Africa, throughout the Caribbean, throughout the Americas, and brought it together to form this celebration.
Taharkah, I just want to jump in very quickly, and I just want to make this, I want to clarify this point here, that Kwanzaa is not a black Christmas.
You see, because of the time of the year that Kwanzaa falls, which is the 26th of December until the 1st of January, many people have just taken Kwanzaa and said, well, it's just a black Christmas. Because it's so close to Christmas, they say, well, I'm not going to celebrate Christmas, I'm going to celebrate the black Christmas, which is called Kwanzaa. Nothing can be further from the truth. Kwanzaa has nothing to do with Christmas. So when you're celebrating Kwanzaa, you're celebrating an African spiritual principles. Christmas has nothing to do with that. Christmas has nothing to do with African people as a whole. So, I'm glad Brother Dougie asked me that, because that's the thing we always have to explain to people. When you're celebrating Kwanzaa, you're not celebrating a Black Christmas. You're celebrating an African cultural, spiritual festival. That's what Kwanzaa is. So, as I said, Kwanzaa is based around the Nguzo Saba. The Nguzo Saba is the 7 principles. And these principles starts, the first one starts on the 26th of December. And the 26th of December is the principle that the PSCM branch in London have celebrated. Now, I think they have been doing this well over 30 years here in London. And there's other branches of PSCM in Birmingham, Wolverhampton, Manchester, and Nottingham, which celebrate other various principles. As I go along, I will point out which groups celebrate which principles. But in essence, it's several principles which should all be celebrated. They're all unique within themselves. The first principle is Umoja. Umoja. Again, all these terms that I'm using is in Kiswahili. You might ask the question, why Kiswahili? Well, after the colonization of Africa, and I use that word aptly because Africa is still colonized to a less or greater extent. But when African countries began to gain their so-called independence, meaning that they were now able to fly a flag, and they was now able to elect some kind of system of government, but as we know, in an economic sense, they are still under the shackles of Western imperialism and colonialism. That has not changed one iota. So in 1974, the 6th Pan-African Congress was held. Now the Pan-African Congress is a series of congresses being held. The first one was held in 1900. It was initiated by a brother from Trinidad known as Henry Sylvester Williams. And it was actually held here in London. And basically, those was a conference to look at the state of the race. So from 1900, Africans have been coming together and saying, let's look at the state of our race and the state we're in. Started in 1900. Now the 6th one was held in 1974 in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. And at that particular Congress, it was decided that now that a lot of African countries was gaining so-called independence, there was a need to be able to speak to each other in one language. Because in order to speak to each other, we have to use the language of the oppressor. So hence, English for the so-called Anglophone countries, French for the so-called Francophone countries. We had the Portuguese spheres of influence such as Angola and Mozambique and Guinea-Bissau using Portuguese to communicate. And of course the whole swathe of North Africa using Arabic to communicate with each other. Now, none of those are truly African languages. So where is an African language that we can use to communicate? So it was decided, because of the geographical spread of Swahili, it's the most widely spoken language geographically in Africa. The Congress decided to adopt Swahili as the medium, as the African medium, which Africans can use to converse with each other. Hence, that's why Swahili was promoted as the premier African language, as a means for communication between Africans. So when Karanga put Kwanzaa together, he then adopted Swahili for this very purpose. So hence, when I say umoja, umoja means unity. And that's the first principle of Kwanzaa. So everything on that day is based around that particular principle. So it's a unity principle. We come together in a united sense. And that's the first principle. And that happens on the 26th of December. And in fact, there'll be a Kwanzaa held at the African Caribbean Cultural Center, which, if I'm not mistaken, has been going on well over 30 years.
Yeah, more than 30, yeah.
Over 30 years at the same venue. The only year that it wasn't held at the Cultural Center was in 2016, which was the 50th anniversary of Kwanzaa, and we had it at the Roundhouse in Lower Clapton. Because various groups who would put on Kwanzaa, we all came together and put on a mega Kwanzaa. I mean, there was well over 700 people attended that particular Kwanzaa. But apart from that, the Pan-African Congress movement has been holding its Kwanzaa at the African Caribbean Cultural Center, and this year will be no exception. We will be there again on the 26th of December to celebrate Umoja, unity. Then the second principle of the Nguzo Saba is Koji Chakalia. And Koji Chakalia, again the Swahili terms, means self-determination. And as I go through this principle, you can see the depth, the enormity that these principles have. Because what they're saying, if you follow unity and practice it, if that's Umoja, if you follow Koji Chakalia and practice it, self-determination, and as the others come along, I will also explain, then we have an entire code to live by. That's what Kwanzaa is about. So Koji Chakalia, the 27th of December, means self-determination. And the third principle on the 28th of December is Ujima. Ujima. And Ujima means collective works and responsibility. Again, a principle that we need to live by. Collective works and responsibility. That's self-explanatory. Then we go on to the fourth principle, which is Ujamaa. And Ujamaa means cooperative economics. So important. So important. Because in the early days of the struggle, yes, we were busy freeing ourselves and gaining an identity to ourselves, but many of the times the economic side was somewhat neglected. And hence, that's why we found ourselves in perpetual dependency syndrome, waiting or asking others to give us jobs, to help us. So that is why Ujamaa is so key. And after Ujamaa, we have the fifth principle, which is Nia. Nia is purpose. And again, without purpose, what can we achieve? You know, we've got to make our mind up. We've got to have a sense of purpose to know where we're going. Then we come on to the sixth principle, which is Kuumba. Beautiful word. And Kuumba means creativity. Because we look all throughout history, and without a doubt, we can see that African people are the most creative. Everything you look around, everything you can think of, has its genesis in Africa. The creativity comes out of us. That's Kuumba, creativity. And finally, the seven principles is Umani. Umani means faith. And as we can see, without faith, can any of the other six be achieved? Surely the answer is no. If we do not have faith in ourselves, faith with what we believe in, faith in what we're doing. So Imani is the bedrock that once we have faith, everything is achievable. So those seven principles goes to make up what's known as the Nguzo Saba.
Yeah. I wonder if you can just quickly let people know, because it's celebrated other part of in the country as well. You know, Canada on the 7th day Imani, as in Manchester. Yeah, and if you know people in Manchester, or let them come there. Just let people know
Okay. Now, the particular list that I have is the PACM and close associates. Apart from this list, there is other Kwanzas going by
in London as well. Yeah.
Because there's like Brother Minka's group, Africa Bantu Saturday School.
Yeah.
They have one in South London.
That's usually on a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken.
There's the one in Bristol, the John Lynch Centre, the Martin Centre, the John Lynch Group. Have one there. So the whole idea is not.
Hold on, sorry to cut you like that, but there's been one in. Let's go there in Luton.
Yes, there's still one in Luton.
They're still doing it?
Bevis. Yeah, Brother Bevis is the cornerstone.
That one day, yeah.
Which is held in Luton. So you see, the whole idea of Kwanzaa is not just for one or two groups to hold it and say we own it. No. It's to spread it as far, as wide as possible and get as many people celebrating as possible. In fact, the real crux of Kwanzaa is that everybody who believes in Kwanzaa or celebrates Kwanzaa should have a shrine in their home. And every day you go through a particular ritual to that various principles. Yes, outside the home we have public gatherings where we bring large crowds together to celebrate Kwanzaa also. But the bedrock of Kwanzaa is actually in the home. Okay then. So if I just quickly go through the list, and like I said, these lists are from the Pan-African Congress movement and close associate. So on the 26th, which principle of the Moja will be held in London, and that's at the African Caribbean Cultural Centre, and that time between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. and that's 9 Clarendon Road, Hornsey. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll leave it for a bit just in case people need to get pens and pencils and paper. So towards the end we will go through the entire list, and if you have everything ready to record or ready to write down, it will be great. Yeah? I think that's the best thing, because we'll go through them now and know something wasn't
Okay
actually
then.
ready.
All right
So in the
then.
meanwhile, what I'll do is go on to talk about some of the symbolisms of Kwanzaa. Now, the seventh principle himself is the Guzu Saba. Now, apart from the Guzu Saba, we have a shrine in Kwanzaa. Every Kwanzaa, the centerpiece is a shrine. Now, on the shrine, we start with the foundation piece, which is the Nkeka. The Nkeka is a straw mat. That's the foundation, means the foundation on which everything is built. Then on that mat we place the Kanara. And the Kanara is the candle holder. And that candle holder holds 7 candles. 3 red, 3 green, and 1 black. And if you notice, red, black, and green, those are the colors of... People are familiar with Marcus Garvey.
Marcus Garvey, yeah.
When Marcus Garvey came and put a flag together to represent African unity, Pan-Africanism, he used the color of the red, the black, and the green. Red meaning the blood, sweat, and tears of our people. The black meaning the people themselves and the wealth of Africa, because the wealth comes from the people. And the green again meaning the land and the wealth of that land. So Karanga adopted those colors to keep in tune with Garveyism. And remember, Marcus Garvey didn't come out of a vacuum. Marcus Garvey was also influenced by many other people. One of the prime influence of Garvey was people like Booker T. Washington and Edward Wilmot Blyden. Those are some of the key influences.
Mention a little bit Edward William Blyden. What was so key about him? I always hear his name all the time. So what's so key?
Well, basically, Blyden, you can say, was a man far in advance of his time. He is often dubbed in many quarters as the father of Pan-Africanism. Because we're talking maybe like 1830s, 1840s. Blyden came from one of the Caribbean islands. I'm trying to remember. I think it's St. Thomas or one of those Caribbean islands. But at a very early stage of his life, he took himself to Africa itself, the continent of Africa. And while there, he did tremendous work in trying to bring forth unity between African people. Because remember, Blyden was one of those whose descendants was kidnapped, stolen, taken out of Africa and deposited basically on little rocks, little stones sometime in the Caribbean. But as the saying goes, you do not give up an island for a continent. He realized that the greater goal, the greater glory is Africa itself. So he made his way to Africa. And when he got to Africa, he then tried to spread the word of Pan-Africanism. It wasn't referred at the time as Pan-Africanism, but looking at it, what he was doing is uniting African people. No matter where they are. And I know I'm just trying to remember the title of his book. I can't remember it right now, but he wrote several books, which was very influential. And like I say, he was one of the key influencer of Marcus Messiah Garvey. So, back to the shrine. We now talk about the Kanara. And the Kanara, each day, each of those candles, those 7 candles, represent one day. So one principle. So each day, the whole idea is that you light a particular candle representing that day, and then you perform that ritual. So on the first day, Umoja, right until the last day of Imani. So on the day of Imani, all 7 candles will be lit. Yeah? So that's the Kanara. Now, apart from the Kanara, we have what we call the Kukumbo Cha Umoja. Kukumbi Cha Umoja, which is a unity cup. And that's the cup symbolically would be passed around, and everybody would drink from that cup to show a sense of unity. Then we have what we call Zawadi, which is the gifts. The because one of the things Kuranga wanted to do was make Kwanzaa very pivotal around the children.
Okay then.
The children, or in Swahili we would say the watotos, because they are our future.
They are our future, yeah.
So the wadi is gifts, which is given to the watotos on certain condition. They would have to have been good, they would have to have been worthy of it. So if they wasn't worthy of it, you would say you have to wait till next year before you get one. So, you know, there's an incentive for them to be good,
yeah.
and perform well in order to receive the Zawadi. And then there's what we call the Vubumzi, which is corn, the ears of corn, and each of those grains of corn represents a child.
Okay.
Because in African culture, in African philosophy, children are the most important things. Because in African cosmology, you look, everything is cyclic, cyclic. It goes round in a circle. So somebody can live to 100 and then they die, and somebody on the same day he died or she died, another child is born.
No child, yeah. Yeah, that
the
cycle.
life cycle continues.
Yeah.
And that's how we see the world. So there's no beginning.
And there's no end, yeah.
It's a continuity.
That's an interesting point you made there, and I'm glad you made that point there. That cycle of life, there's no begin end, yeah. And it's quite interesting because my brethren, he's I think his uncle passed, right? Uncle passed. And it so happens that when uncle passed, he had twins about a few days after. You see what I'm saying? So that continue of life.
Life just continues.
Yeah, just after. Yeah, just a few days.
Anywhere in Africa you go, any part you see, that's the approach. That's the philosophical approach of any African belief system. They realize that it's a continuation. And that's why so much emphasis is put on children, and the elders as well, that they're treated well, because you're going to come back. You're always coming back, and on it goes.
Whoa! That's amazing. That's amazing. What I want to do is because we're going to give the details, so we're getting people to get their pen and paper ready still. But so do you know the address for the ones in other part of London? Because you got one in South London, as Minka Group. That's in South London. If I'm not mistaken, somewhere in Brixton, but I haven't got the address, nothing like that.
I think this year I've seen a poster. It's going to be in Tooting Broadway.
Tooting Broadway.
There's quite a few people. I know Galata Red is involved, so they listen.
Okay, no problem. We'll get that information. And is any other ones in London?
There's one on the 30th, I know, in Leighton.
That's in Leighton.
Something to listen out for.
Okay then. What about the one in Luton? Because that's the one I usually go to. Yeah, they're doing again. Do you know? Yeah. Alright, I have to get.
That the one in Leighton, Bevis and others are involved.
Oh, involving that one there. Okay then, no problem. Because what we do, I'll probably get him to ask us to give us a call. Yeah, that'd be even better still. Okay then. So Taharkah is inside the house, and this man have a wealth of information and knowledge. Man involved in organization so many years, I know he's a very serious family man. I see one of his boys I haven't seen for years. I didn't recognize him. He's a bodybuilder, if you don't mind me saying so. Look like some muscle man, you know what I mean? And he's an IT man. That's the IT man, yeah? IT takes IT very, very serious, you know what I mean? I know he's got a beautiful daughter who follow his footsteps, because I know she studied history as well, innit? Yeah. So, serious man, I know his beautiful wife as well, what I wanted to do, because I wanted to come back and give us the address still, right? But what I'd like you to do is to mention about your trip to the motherland, yeah, You know, because I know you was out in the mind and very enthusiastic, and I was telling people whenever brother we're talking about the motherland. So when did you go there? What was your which part of
Yeah, when I was there in November.
Oh, just recently.
Yeah, just recently. And you see, as we're talking about Kwanzaa and reuniting our people, it was something that actually I did something like this years ago, because I first went to Africa I first stepped foot on African soil in 1992, believe it or not, 1992.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first ever trip to Africa. And again, I give great praises to the African Caribbean Self-Help Organization, Pan-African Congress Movement, because it was through these and the Marcus Garvey Foundation. It was through those organizations that I realized a great dream at an early age to get into Africa and see for myself, though for completing the circle. Because there's a place in Senegal known as Gorée Island, and then there's a particular house on Gorée Island which they call the House of Slave. And there's a particular door which is called the Door of No Return. And the whole idea, once you pass through that door, you say bye-bye to Africa. So by us going back, we are showing that we have to change the name. It is a door of return. And it is now the door of return, because we are coming back and passing back through that door and going back into Africa. So all the cynicism, all the, how can I put it, everything that our enemies try to do to us, smash us up, break us up as a family, disperse us throughout the world, has not worked. Because Africans in their millions in the diaspora are making their way back to the motherland unhindered these days. So I was in there, I was actually in Senegal. That's the place I went in November. And in 92 I actually landed in the Gambia. But when I got to
you went to Gambia in 92?
Yeah. When I went to the Gambia, a few weeks before we went, we so happened, buck up few other brothers who were in and out of Africa.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Yeah, okay. Then.
And they introduced us to some Senegalese brothers.
Okay.
And we said, yeah, we're off to Africa, we're off to Gambia. So they said, why not come over into Senegal? And we said, well, And it's, when I look back on it, I almost feel ashamed of the answer I gave. But the answer I gave is that we do not speak French, right? We don't speak French. So what's the point going to Senegal? We'll be lost. And that's the answer that came from us at the time.
Yeah.
No. The colonizers had won then, because the whole idea was to break us up in these different compartments and never again we will mix. And it was happening, it was working.
Yeah.
People from the so-called English-speaking world only went to English-speaking African countries because it's easy, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And vice versa, the French-speaking diasporans went to the French-speaking countries, and very few crossover was taking place. So the brother says to me, come into Senegal. And we said, nah, man, we don't speak French, and we be lost. And they said, look, it's all right. We'll chaperone you around. We'll tour you. You're with us. Be our guests. We're inviting you. We'll provide you a place to stay, food to eat, everything. So hence we went over into Senegal. And it's funny, when you went into a land such as Senegal, it's like your eyes begin to open wider and wider and wider. And you start to see and hear things, and I said, how comes I didn't know about this? How comes I never heard about this? What? And it was just amazing. Because what was French stayed there, and what was English stayed there. Just like how our slave masters designed it. And it's going to take a bit of effort for us to break down those barriers and say, if I say I'm an African, all of Africa is open to me. Not just little bits All of Africa is open to me. There should be no boundaries, no barriers. We should go anywhere in Africa we want. So hence, from 1992, I crossed over into Senegal. And I remember when I came back to this country, my head was buzzing. I was buzzing of what I've seen, what I came across. And I remember the African liberation that year, I took to the platform. And I just started to say the beautiful things I saw, the marvelous things. And several people approached me and says, man, I like to go Gambia, I like to go Senegal. And you know, true to say, a brother, he died, I think 2 years ago. He was coming up to retirement, you know, and he had his plan set, I'm going to retire, and I'm going to go back to Jamaica and live out my days in Jamaica. And after I spoke, his daughter came to me and says, I would like to go. So I said, don't worry, I know people down there, I'll set you up with people. So somebody to meet at the airport, somebody to show you about. She went, loved it so much. She came and persuaded her father, please go and take a trip. He was skeptical, but she just said, just go and have a look. You know, me not ask you to live there, me just say, go look. I mean, even pay your fare. So in that case, he went. And you know, when the brother came back, his retirement plan from Jamaica went out the door.
He left that one there.
That was put aside. Yes, him go and him just look for him people them and him come back and him said, Africa is where I'm bound. And he lived out, I don't know, the last 20 years or so of his life in Africa, in the Gambia. That's where he settled.
That's where he settled off.
And lived. And I think it's now about 3 years ago he died. Now, I was in Africa in November, and Beanie, people might have heard of Brother Beanie from Birmingham. He was in the Gambia while I was in Senegal, burying another one of our members who just passed. And
in Gambia there.
Just passed, and he did exactly the same. Retired here, went out, and lived out his life. Now, and I started to say, well, you see, the thing about returning home, you know.
But just to come in this right talk that you know, see the Juliet. You know, see Juliet do some big things.
Right, she's in Gambia right now. Yes.
Yeah, do some big things because I hear she's on the media circuit and let people know English at dumb pan. Them kind of something. No, seriously, she and I think another sister got like a TV crew and they're going interviewing people and letting people know about.
I see one of the interviews she did.
Yeah. So she do some big things out there because people came ask me if I know someone called Juliet, right? I'm saying, yeah, I know good because I'm working with her. She goes, yeah, she do some big things out there. So, yeah.
Wherever she go, you know, she's not one to be silent.
Yeah. So,
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah. No, she's doing some big things. I think what she does, she goes around interviewing people, kind of works they're doing, and trying to encourage people from here to go to Gambia. You know, yeah. So I know she did on them kind of runnings there. Yeah. Okay then. So as you said, you was in Senegal for how many weeks? You was there for?
Went to Senegal was just under 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
The whole idea of this, like I said, is something I've been working on for a long time. After I came back in '92, what I actually did a few years after, I actually used to facilitate people going down. So somebody would come to me and say, I would like to go, and I would say, okay, I can put you in touch with X, Y, and Z people, because you know it's daunting just turning up on your own, not knowing anybody. So I say, right, here's a contact, here's such and such. So that's what I've been doing for years. But I've always yearning to actually be doing trips down there and taking people down. So that's what I did in September. I took a few people down, went into the Senegal, and none of these people have been. Some of them have been to other parts of Africa, but none of them have been to the Senegal. And precisely for the reason I mentioned before. Because it's in the Francophone sphere, it's like, they're lost, I don't speak the language, I don't know nobody, so I just stick to Zimbabwe, or I stick to Gambia, or I stick to Ghana, or I stick, you know. And it's a shame. It's a shame, because like I said, Africa is there. We should go anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And not be hindered by these artificial barriers in terms of borders or boundaries and language that the Europeans have put in place in order to divide us and keep us out. Because when you go into the Senegal, you see whole heap of Europeans down there living comfortable.
In Senegal there, yeah?
Whole heap in Gambia is the same. Wherever you go in Africa, you see them living comfortable. Yet the media is telling us it's a dump. It's full of disease and AIDS, and it's somewhere to stay away from. What you want to go there for, you got nothing in common with it. Trying to dissuade us when behind our backs they are piling down there. Because when you go on the plane down there, you always find the Africans in a small minority. If the plane carried 200 people, you might be lucky to find 15 Africans on it. So where's all these Europeans going? What is so fascinating about Africa to them? You know, because they know the truth. So it's about time we brush that myth aside and we just go. So like I said, I was in there in November. They took some people down. First time they went into Senegal. And the very night we landed, because we didn't land till about 1 o'clock in the morning. So by the time we reached the place where we were staying, it's dark, you know, you couldn't really see nothing. So when they woke up in the morning and step outside, this one sister kept on saying, I cannot believe I'm in Africa. I can't believe this is Africa. And I said, why? She just looked around and said, I never thought it'd be like this. I said, what did you think it'd be like? Well, I said, I know. That's what I said when I first went as well.
Okay.
The imagery you had, you didn't know what to expect. And you was always thinking, prepare yourself for the worst. And yet, what you saw around it was just wonderment, marvelous, beautiful. Could not, you just took her breath away. Now, Senegal is dear to me for the simple reason, as you know, my wife, she's from the Senegal. That's where I met her. And so it's a part of the world I've always been encouraging people. When you go to the Gambia, say, look at the map, and you see 200 miles up the Gambia River, 30 miles either side of the river, that's Gambia. And all around it is the Senegal. So the British and the French got together, and the British just cut out a little wedge called Gambia, where it used to go into hinterland, inland, take the slaves, bring them down the river, and ship them out. Right? And we have allowed ourselves to be earmarked by what they put. The boundaries they have put down, we have stuck solidly to that. And I said, no. If I do nothing else in my life, it's my intention to break that down. I mean, years ago they had an attempt to create what they call Senegambia, to fuse the two nations together.
So Senegal and Gambia are quite close to each other, you're saying that?
Well, Gambia is in Senegal.
Oh, Gambia is in Senegal.
If you look at the map,
No,
you'll see
I didn't even know
the
that.
Gambia River.
Yeah.
If you go 200 miles up the Gambia River and 30 miles either side of the Gambia River, that's the country of Gambia. That's what Gambia consists of. And all around it is the Senegal. It's the same people. In Gambia they speak the Wolof language, in Senegal they speak the Wolof language. So when they talk to each other, they don't talk to each other in English or French, they talk to each other in Wolof.
Wolof, yeah.
Right? And they perfectly understand each other. They're the same people, but because of the artificial boundaries that says, and when those countries was given so-called independence, part of the agreement is that you must recognize these boundaries from the Berlin Conference, which was drawn up in 1884, 1885. You cannot change these boundaries. So even though it don't make sense, because straight down a group of people, they split them in half, it doesn't make sense. They have kept that because the Western world want that in place. Because they carved up Africa in such a way that the present boundaries in Africa, a lot of the African countries find it very difficult to be economically viable because of how the boundaries are carved up and how things are done. Now those boundaries suit the West. those suits the West. Those do not suit Africa. Those do not suit Africa. Because, for instance, in Gambia, you have Mandinka people, you have Jola people, you have Fulani people, you have everything. So in Senegal, so in Mali, so in this. It's not like, say, oh, all the people live in this territory are from the Mandinka group, or from the Jola group, or from the Seri group. No. Right? So the borders just don't make sense. But the West have kept them in place. So like I said, I took those people into Senegal now. And one thing I said to them, now, while you're in Senegal, I'm going to show you things. Have you ever heard of this? So I said, what about the Renaissance Monument? Ever heard of that? You're familiar with that? None of them. One of them said, I think I may have heard about something. But basically, it's a monument that was opened in 2010. It was designed by the then Senegalese president, Abdoulaye Wade. And he wanted a symbolism that symbolizes. So when you look at that monument, it's a pity I never have a picture of it here. You know, you see it's a man with his arm around a woman, holding up a child. The child is pointing.
Okay.
And when you look at the child is pointing over the Atlantic towards the west. That's to say, that's where our people was taken and they were brought in that direction.
Okay.
Right? It's fantastic. It's the first time I actually been there. I've been in Senegal many times, but it's the first time I actually went to see the monument. And I thought, yes, you know, I remember the first time I went to New York and I wanted to see the Statue of Liberty. And when I got there, I wasn't impressed. You know, I don't know what I was expecting, but for what I saw, it's okay. I wasn't that impressed. But this monument, my gosh. When I got there, everybody, all I could hear was, wow. Wow, this is fantastic.
So you have to try pointing to the west, so that's where people do, that's powerful, man.
It's enormous.
Yeah?
It's over 2.5 times the size of the Statue of Liberty. It's huge.
Yeah, that's powerful,
Go
man.
inside, there's a big gallery inside. Right? And when you go up, you get the lift and go up into the head of the man, then you can look up all over. Massive view. It's a very, very, very impressive thing.
Yeah, very emotional as well, isn't it?
Very emotional.
Yeah,
And when you look at it,
yeah,
you know, it brings all kind of
emotions,
to you when you look.
all stuff coming out,
You know, it was controversial when it was first opened because it cost a lot of money, and people saying, what is a poor country like Senegal wasting its money putting up such a monument? But it was open 2010. Right now, in the 9 years that it's been open, I reckon it's paid for itself 10 times over. Because the amount of people is like a magnet. It just draws people to come and see it. It draws people to come and see it. That was fantastic. Now, there was just mind blowing. Another part I took them to is what we call Lake Ratba. Ratba, R-E-T-B-A, Ratba. Now, it's known, if you look in books, it was just called the Pink Lake. Now it's a salt lake. Have you heard of the Dead Sea?
I heard of the Dead Sea,
Israel?
yeah.
And what's unique about that, the salt contents, people go in there and they float.
Yeah?
Yeah, because of the salt.
So, okay.
And they use it for medicinal purposes, and, you know. Now, imagine the lake in Senegal is even saltier
than
the Dead Sea. Right? Now, the salt that's produced from that lake supplies the whole of West Africa. So much salt.
Okay then.
Right.
So people go in there and
people go in there and especially if they have skin ailments
and things.
So
forth,
okay. They dip themselves in there. So again, it's very, very, it's very good for that. Now, what's unique about it? A certain time of the year, it glows pink.
It goes pink.
That's why they call it the Pink Lake.
Oh, they call it pink. They call it Pink Lake. Yeah. So people going all the time. All different people travel and just go in there and just bartend all them.
People come from all
over the world.
Just to go in Pink Lake. Because, it's like, well, if they dip in there, they're suffering from X, Y, and Z. help my
Yeah.
condition.
Mm-hmm.
But it glows pink because there's an algae that lives in it because of the salt and stuff. So every so often the algae does multiply and it's pink. So it's a phenomenon. It's a wondrous thing. It's a phenomenon. And another thing, when you go there, it's tremendous. Again, the people who was with me was just mind blown, it was stunned. And then just on the other side of the Pink Lake, it's like Pink Lake is there. You walk literally, I don't know, 200 meters, 300 meters at the most, and it's in the Atlantic Ocean. Massive Atlantic Ocean just coming in. Now when I look at that ocean, all that could go through my mind was that, oh my gosh, imagine the amount of our people taken across that ocean. Imagine the tale that ocean would have to tell if it could speak over these years. So again, very, very emotional, fantastic place. Then the other day we went to a place, a city. Now, it's known as the holy city of Touba. City of Touba grew up around a figure known as Sheikh Amadou Bamba. Until I went to Senegal, never heard of him. Never heard of him. When I say to anybody in the group, ever heard of Sheikh Amadou? Nobody never heard of him. And still, as I speak now, I bet very, very few people listening to this radio station ever heard of Sheikh Amadou Bamba. And yet, in that part of the world, he is renowned as a spiritual leader and a freedom fighter. He became a thorn in the flesh of the French. That they captured him, they moved him towards now Gabon, tried to get rid of him, they couldn't. In the end, they bring him back, and he was in a place what is now Mauritania, the country just north of Senegal. But during his lifetime, what he was able to achieve is nothing tantamount to amazing. There's a library dedicated just to him in Touba. When you go into that library, it's like big library now, it's full of books. And when they turned around and said, these are his writings, and they said, well, hold on, one man write all this. And he said, yeah. I said, no, we can't believe that. Tell me one man wrote.
Some books.
Hundreds.
Yeah?
Hundreds. Hundreds. And on every topic. From medicine, philosophy, history.
Okay, what's his name?
Sheikh Amadou Bamba. Now, when I look at what I said, and nobody's heard of him, and he founded a brotherhood known as the Moritz.
Okay.
The Moritz. Now, what's unique about the Moritz in Senegal is that they are truly what you call self-reliant. They don't wait for nobody, no Frenchman, no European, not even the government to do anything for them. They get up, them sort out themselves. Now, when you go to the city now house over 1 million people, I was told, live there. And it started in Sheikh Amadou Bamba Day. Sheikh Amadou Bamba was born in 1853. He died in 1927. And during his day, when you look at the map of Senegal back then, it was just forest.
Okay.
Big wooded forest.
Forest, yeah.
And that's where he was. The French tried to track him down, they said even the animals, he had the ability to communicate with the animals. So the animals could defend him and hide him and the French
Okay.
So when he died, he basically says, I want a city built here, I want to be buried here. So around his tomb, Touba grew up.
All right.
And the city started to grow. And when you go there, I'm telling you, it's, when I say mind-blowing, I could not believe what I was seeing. It's like you drive out to Dakar, which is the capital of Senegal, for 2 hours. And then you get to this place. All right, they're Muslim, but they're what you call Sufi Muslim. Sufi Islam is the spiritual,
right.
very spiritual side. But when I say Islam, Sufi in Africa, I'm talking about African spirituality.
Oh, yeah.
Is embedded everywhere within that. And my gosh, I'm telling you, I'm still buzzing. I was amazed when I saw Tuba. It's amazing.
Mm.
It's amazing.
Mm.
You know, right? It's amazing. Over 1 million people went build, and that's another thing. People with me was just absolutely awe. One of the sisters with me, she's a Muslim, and she said she heard about it, and to actually be there and to be able to go into that, she was just, you know, she just couldn't contain herself.
Couldn't contain herself,
She
yeah.
just said, wow.
Mm.
And I said, look, and very few people outside of the Francophone countries. You come back to England and mention Tuba, Sheikh, they know what you're talking about.
No.
And this man did so much
Mm.
in Senegal. That's why you look around, you drive around Senegal, you see his picture everywhere. I kept on seeing this picture when I first went.
Mm.
I kept on saying, who is that?
Mm.
Everywhere I go, this picture.
Mhm.
Sheikh Amadou Bamba.
Mm.
Sheikh Amadou Bamba. And man, it's, again, it's a story in itself. It's something that for years I've been trying to push his name, raise his name to let people know that yes, we know certain figures, but there's so much other figures in Africa that we haven't even come across that did sterling work in fighting colonialism and imperialism. So that was Tuba. Then another place it went is Gorée. Now Gorée Island.
I've heard of Gore. Yeah.
Yeah.
You heard of Gore.
Gorée Island is now, you know, quite, you know, well, I've been there many times, but every time I go to that island, it does not fail to move me. You just feel, it's like you feel the ancestors around you, you feel the
Okay.
spirits around you.
See.
Because imagine, Gorée in the whole of West Africa was the principal port from which people were moved out into the Americas. Through Gorees, they would sort it out into the interior. They would go into what's now Ghana, what's now Nigeria, everything, bring them back, take them out, and ship them away. So that island, it's so full of emotion and so full of history. And I remember when I first went to Senegal, there was a move by some philanthropists, great big European millionaires that wanted to seize the island,
Okay.
pour it into some exclusive tourist resort, you know, some, I don't know, like Tenerife or
Yeah.
kind of place. And it's good at the time, the president, Abdi Diouf, put his foot down, said that can't happen. So it's actually given what they call UNESCO status, a special World Heritage Site. And that's what it is now. And again, people with me, I remember one sister just kept touching everything. And they say, everything I touch, I can feel the vibration of the ancestors here. You know, very, very spiritual, moving place. You know, and like I'm saying, it was an eye-opener to them. Because one of the sisters that came with me, she was actually from Nigeria.
She's from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was saying, even though, look, when you look at the map, Senegal isn't that far from Nigeria, and she knew nothing. That's again that Anglo
Yeah.
She knew none of this.
Mm.
And the guide on the island was saying a lot of these slaves were taken, because she's a Yoruba, and they were saying, yeah, a lot of them were Yorubas, taken from Yoruba land, bought via there and shipped out via there, and showed me. It was just, I don't know, I mean, I'm saying it myself, but it was just amazing. Another thing, a place we went was Ifon.
Ifon.
Ifon, if you heard the term Sheikh Anta Diop, heard of Sheikh Anta Diop?
Yeah, I remember that chicken there. Me see Jack, me see him already, you know.
All right.
Don't know, me see him, don't know. Used to, it was him. I think, was it Dr. Ben? It's about 3 other scholars there. that's the first time. Yeah, man. I'm in awe of shit I can do it, man. He was the Don't forget, he's a total scholar, you know. You know.
He's what you call a polyglot.
Yeah, polyglot. I remember that word.
Polyglot means
Multi. Yeah.
If you turn your hand to, you become master.
Yeah, master. All right.
So in his field, he was a mathematician.
Yeah.
He was a historian. He was an anthropologist. He was a linguist, right? And he was a politician. And he mastered the lot.
Mastered a lot, yeah.
Now, Ifan, the University of Dakar, was where he was based.
So where's he from? He's from
Senegal.
He's from Senegal.
He's
From Senegal. All right.
Have now, since his death, they actually named the university after him.
Check out the okay.
Sheikh Anta Diop University, and a lot of the things that he was doing research on now, part of it is given over to like almost like a museum to preserve a lot of the things he was doing. So again, it's somebody that I've been following. Trying to say I never got to see him.
Yeah, see him.
Because when I came into the organization, I remember hearing about these scholars and everything. But by the time, I got active and
I
stuff.
think you might be in Birmingham, probably.
No, I was in Birmingham. But
You was
by
in
the time I got active, he died.
Yeah.
So it's somebody I never, the closest I got was when Ivan Sertima gave a memorial lecture in Sheikh Anta Diop. That's how I really got to know about it.
Yeah, because he spoke at Houston, one of the place, I can't remember, was it Friend's house, probably in Houston, somewhere, some of them places, some big thing they was doing down there. I can't remember it was organised, but this years ago when I first, yeah.
And, so he's somebody that fascinated me for years. I read out and I bought his book, African Origins of Civilization for Reality. That book with Ramesses' head on the front, masterpiece. And then when they bought out the one, Civilization of Barbarism, again, he couldn't do no wrong in my sense in that kind of spot. And so again, if I to go to the university, it's not the first time I've been there, but every time I go there, to walk in his footsteps and to see the big mural. And to see the big mural in the yard of him. It's amazing.
But tell me something, just to jump in the same line, you had a great scholar now, Franz
Fanon.
Where is him come from now? Him from where?
Franz Fanon was actually born in Martinique.
Oh, Martinique.
Yeah, he was born in Martinique, and as you know, he studied in France.
Yeah.
And then he went to Africa to fight in he was a psychiatrist.
Man.
He was actually practicing in Algeria.
That's the Algeria,
French Civil War. And what he saw moved him so much, he actually ended up going over on the side and fighting on the side of the Algerians.
Okay then.
To fight against the French, French colonial.
Because
misrule.
he have a master book, and good thing you're here, because
there's two master books he came out with. As
Black Skin and White Mask.
There's Black Skin, White Mask, which classic, and the one that brought him claim to fame was Wretched of the Earth. Wretched of the Earth. Wherever you go, any true revolutionary who hasn't read or don't heard of Wretched of the Earth, they're not a revolutionary.
Well, I said it again, but because
that is a must. And now in most of the universities and certain courses, that's one of the books they use together with Walter Rodney's book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. Those are always pushed forward. But Fanon again, from Martinique, and phenomenal, brother.
No, but because when I was coming through, as I said, as a baby, right? Them things I used to get slapped in your face with, you know what I mean?
That's one thing. I said I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Because the organization I joined, and the systematic training that we had to go to prepared me and prepared anybody who went for it for life. It gave us not just the knowledge, but it gave us the confidence.
The confidence, yeah.
That you could go anywhere in the world and hold your own against anybody.
Anybody, yeah.
I don't care whether it's some Oxford done or Cambridge done or some Harvard graduate or whatever, wherever you go. You're trained in such a systematic way. You're trained in a way that you're able to deconstruct an argument. So when these people are trying to blind you with science, you can pull them apart. Right? You can pull them apart. And that's what I'm saying. I'm lucky I got that kind of training through the Pan-African Congress movement. Because anybody that went through the training and anywhere they go, it's like they stand out. People go, so what? Where you study? Or what college you in? Because they stand out. How come you know so much?
Yeah.
Because when you saw the reading list that we were given, Fallon was on it, Richard Hill was on it, Blaskin Warmas was on it, Sheikh Anta Diop was on it, Stolen Legacy was on it, Destruction of Black Civilization was on it. You know, you go down and when we had to just, it's not a case of just skimming the book, you know, we had to study them.
Study them, yeah.
So every time a group of us get together and we go word for word, you read a paragraph, you discuss it. You read the paragraph, you discuss it. So you had a thorough understanding of it.
Okay then.
So it's not just a case that I pick up a book, yeah, I've read Blaskin White Mass, I've read Wretched of the Earth. You've read it, but did they understand it?
Do you understand it? Yeah.
You know, did they understand it? That's the whole idea. I mean, it's not so long ago that another brother from the PSCM, we were going again for the book called 2000 Seasons. And how much people said they read that book and they never really get it. So we went for it again just 6 months ago. You know, just to say the depth. Because now, you know, African spirituality is all the rage. A lot of people are getting into their African spirituality. And that's what 2000 Seasons was. But it's written in such a coded way that unless you understand African spirituality, you would read that book and don't understand what the man was saying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So that is said, Sheikh Anta Diop University was another place I took them to. Then after that, we went to what we called the Museum of African Civilizations. It's a brand new museum, just opened about a year ago. And the idea of that is that in Europe and America lies a lot of our stolen artifacts and treasure. Now, a lot of people, if they want to study certain African things, they go to the British Museum. You don't go to Africa because it's in the British Museum. So you go to the British Museum. I remember when I went to the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, I had to go to look at some Benin bronze. And there was in America, in the Smithsonian, and the Louvre in France has a lot of old stuff. Now, when African government asks for them back, the argument is always given. We can't give it them back because you haven't got nowhere to put them. And if you just throw them this and throw them this, they're going to be destroyed. You should thank us for taking them because at least we have looked after them.
Look after them, yeah.
So now, brand new museum have just been completed. When I say state of the art, you know, I mean state.
Where, in Senegal there?
In Senegal.
In Senegal, okay.
I mean state of the art. That and the monument. It's like when I walk into that, even me to just stand still and look and say, wow, state of the art. Now, the whole idea is that that excuse now goes out the window.
Out the window, yeah.
There's no more, you got nowhere to put them. Here is a place where you have to put them. Gary sitting back, right? And let me carry them home. So that's what's going on. Full steam ahead now. There's a lot of agitation going on for them to hand it back. But here what the Europeans are coming up with now. Well, we recognize that, yes, they should be going home and stuff. But I'll tell you what, we can't give them back. Instead, we loan them back to
Oh, boy.
That's their argument.
That's their argument, no.
It don't belong to you anymore. Too much time has passed. It's our property now. But what? We'll be generous and loan some of them back to you.
Yeah.
So again, that fight goes on. But that was a state-of-the-art place. Fantastic. The things that I saw in there, I just couldn't. And it's half empty. deliberately waiting, the space is there, waiting for return of these things from all over Europe and America. You know?
Whoa. Okay, then we have the great man inside our house. And plus, you know, again, my brother, Taharkah. So what does that mean, Taharkah? Was it, where you get that name from, and what does it mean? Yeah.
If I tell you how I get that name, I told Tony Browder one time, when he was going up to Birmingham on the train. And sure, you know, he's into Egyptology and he's doing a lot of digging in Egypt.
Yeah.
And one of the periods that he does a lot of work around is the 25th dynasty. And the 25th dynasty is the undeniable dynasty that the Europeans can no longer say the Egyptians weren't black. Because the 25th dynasty, all the rulers were as African, you know, they couldn't, even if they look off the nose, them still can't hide the African features. So Taharkah is from the 25th dynasty. Taharkah was the pharaoh who reunited Upper and Lower Egypt. Right? When the Hyksos had come in and pushed the Africans back down into what's now Sudan, and the Africans then gathered themselves, rallied, and said, look, we have to reclaim our land. And then under Taharkah, they managed to push. And then I think his father, Shabaka, as well, they pushed the Hyksos and those people back out and took over Egypt in its entirety. But that's not how I got the name. In fact, it's when I was first in Senegal.
Yeah?
Me and a brother went over. And we was in Gambia. Then we caught the bus from Gambia. We was going into Senegal to Dakar. So we had to leave early in the morning, get transport to the ferry port, get the boat across the Gambia River to the north bank of the Gambia River, then get a taxi to the border. From the border, you get the boat. Now, we were on the bus going. We reached a place called Kaolack in Senegal, big town. And it was like a stop. Now my friend, his name is Allergy, right? So you know, because Senegal is mostly a Muslim country, when you say algae or allergy, it means somebody who has been to Mecca. So it's like a big thing, a big title.
Yeah, I know.
So when he says, you know, they were saying, like, we were just talking to people and I said, what's your name? And he said, algae. But to their ears, they heard allergy.
Allergy, yeah.
So everybody's like, treating him with reverence and wow, I want to touch allergy and shaking his hand and everything. So I'm just sitting there now, you know. And this girl, I don't think she was about more than 9 or 10. Because you know, when the bus stop, a lot of them come up trying to sell things. And this one just came up and she just looked at me and just pointed at me and she says, Taharkah.
Yeah?
Now, like I said to everybody, I don't know whether she was saying Taharkah as Taharkah, the 25th dynasty pharaoh, but to my ears it sounded Taharkah. So I said, and she said, you, well, in Wolof, she's speaking Wolof, so I'm trying to understand, and she's saying, pointing, Taharkah. You know, so I never thought nothing of it. You know, it's just like, she called me Taharkah and didn't know what it mean. I thought it was just some Wolof phrase or something. And it wasn't until years after, maybe well over 10 years after, I forgot, I was reading something and I saw the word Taharkah jumped out at me. You know, and that time, you know, people saying they need to take an African name and I'm looking. And then it just clicked and I said, but I've been given one. Because people always say, don't take it. When you go to Africa, you'll be given a name.
Okay then.
Now in the other parts, they was trying to give me name, but they were Muslims' names.
All right.
And I'm saying, nah, man, I don't want to jump from the frying pan into the fire, really. So I don't want to jump from a Christian name to a Muslim name. So I said, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
You know. And then when I look into it, I said, Taharkah. And I said, but I was given a name. Taharkah. And that's how it came about, basically. And that's how the name Taharkah came for me.
Okay then.
You know?
Okay then. All right. Fantastic. Okay then, I want to give up the information, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Kwanzas. So these are a series of Kwanzas up and down the country from the 26th. So on the 26th, this one is in London, and it's on Thursday the 26th of December from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. And that's at the African Caribbean Cultural Center, which is 9 Clarendon Road, Hornsey. Postcode N86DJ. And there's a phone number here. If people, I know people are going to say they're interested in store, but bad news, the stores are all gone, right? Because there's not many stores, and every year there's been a rush. So the stores are gone. So that's that one. So the 26th of December, African Caribbean Cultural Center, Hornsey Road. I'm sure a lot of people around here would know where that is. Then on the 27th, which is Kujichagulia. The one in London is Umoja, remember Unity. Then Kujichagulia, Self-Determination. That will be held in Wolverhampton, and that's on the 27th of December. And that's from 7 p.m. It's got here 7 p.m. till late. Those open at 6:30 p.m. And that's at the Heritage Centre. That's Clifford Street, Wolverhampton, WV6 8AA. And all these Kwanzas, entry is free. You do not pay a fee to get in. The most they'll ask, if you wish to give a donation, that will be welcomed. But they're all free events.
Tell me something. The one in Wolverhampton Heritage Centre. Who runs that? Is that sister run that place there?
Yeah, well, the Heritage Centre is, well, that's the PSCM branch of, that's the Wolverhampton branch of the Pan-African Congress Movement.
Okay,
all that, and they're based there. But the key sister behind the PSCM, she's actually the chair of the whole organization, is Sister Miami.
Okay then.
Sister Miami has been around, many people know her, she's been around for years, so she's the key mover there in Wolverhampton. Okay, so yeah. Also on the 27th, Friday the 27th, between 5:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. at the African Caribbean Center in Leicester, this is, and that's at Milestone Road, and that's also Kujichagulia. So that's Leicester, Friday the 27th, between 5:30 and 10:30, and that's at the African Caribbean Center, Milestone Road, Leicester. Postcode LE2OUA. Then on Wednesday, hold on, that's the last one, so let me go Nottingham first. On Monday the 30th of December, that's 6 p.m. till late, we have Nottingham. So that's the Kwanzaa in Nottingham. Monday the 30th of December, which is Nia. And Nia is purpose. And that's at Hyson Green Youth Club. Hyson Green Youth Club, Touray Street, Nottingham, NG7 BER. No, sorry, 8ER. NG7 8ER. And that's the one for Nottingham. Then on the then on the 28th, that's the 28th, which is Collective Works and Responsibility, which is Ujima in Bristol. We have Kwanzaa, and that's by the John Lynch African Educational Program and Malcolm X Center. Right, so they're putting on the Kwanzaa down in Bristol, and that's Saturday the 28th of December, 2 p.m. till 10 p.m. And that's at the Malcolm X Center, Bristol. and that's in St. Paul's, and the postcode is BS28YA. Then on the 29th, that's Sunday the 29th, which is Ujama, which is Cooperative Economics. This is Birmingham. So Saturday the 27th of December, between 5 p.m. and midnight. This would be at the Legacy Center. Now the Legacy Center is very up. That's a brand new center that's just opened. It used to be called the Drum.
I've heard the drum. That's in Birmingham too?
Yeah, the Drum.
I've heard the
For
drum.
many years in Aston, in a place called Aston. The Drum actually closed down, and it was taken over by a group, Africans got together and they managed to take it over, and they renamed it now the Legacy Center. And it's a place that's a lot of activities you're going to see happening there. So that's the Legacy Center, and that's 144 Potters Lane, Aston, Birmingham B6 4UU. So again, that's in Birmingham. And then finally in Manchester, which is Imani Faith, and that's the 1st of January, and that's between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. and that's at the West Indian Centre, Carmore Row, Manchester. And postcode is M13 0FB. So these are the various Kwanzaa. But if you want more information on any of these, just ring this number. You can ring this number 0741 548 2167, or you can ring 0795 605 2821. And these numbers are attached to the Mama Art Center. So we'll be able to give you a lot more information on the various quantities.
Okay then, while you're here, I wanted to touch a little about the Mahat Center and what activities is happening down there in the near future. If you know any, if you just could touch on that.
Well, in fact, at the Mahat Center on the 31st, we normally celebrate what we call the Karamu, which is the feast. In Kwanzaa on the 31st, we have the Karamu, which is a feast which we would normally hold at the Mahat Center. So that's any time between 6 to midnight, normally seeing the new year there. So I know Elder Pepperkai is busily organizing that together with the team around him. So again, those numbers that are given before, 0795 605 2821, if you'd like to know more. But on the 26th, we'll be actually saying a lot more about the various Karamu celebration at the center. Now, apart from that, the Mahat Center, as you know, has been in operation now for the past 5 years in terms of its opening doors for the public and having various events there. At the moment, every Sunday between 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. we have a self-defense class. The style of self-defense is known as Nohusi, and that's a brother behind it and member of the PSCM, came up through the PSCM through the youth wing, probably might know Brother Imani, and came up, and he's the one that actually devised Nohusi and he teaches it. So again, it's open to, it's keep fit, but at the same time it's self-defense. Showing you how to defend yourself and so forth. So we have that. Now every first Sunday and third Sunday we have what we call the Umoja sessions. The Umoja sessions is meeting put on by the Pan-African Congress movement, and they're in the vein of what used to happen at Head Start every Sunday upstairs. So every first Sunday of the month we have Cecil Gotsmo speaking.
Oh, Cecil Gotsmo was there the first Sunday.
Still there every first Sunday. As you know, people know him way back from Head Start, was doing the same thing. And he speaks around that era. His area is more history, but also into politics. I mean, his last talk was actually around African spirituality, which is like a new area for him. But he did a very good job. So those meetings are ongoing every first Sunday and every third Sunday. We will have. The other 2 Sundays, what we normally do is for people that would like to know more about the organization, the Pan-African Congress Movement, which is an organization been around since 1974. I mentioned before the 6th Pan-African Congress held in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. The PSM actually came out of that. As a result of various people attending that conference, they came back, and the Pan-African Congress Movement was set up in this country. It was an amalgam of organizations from London, Birmingham, Manchester, Nottingham, Wolverhampton, all came together to create this movement. So it's been around since 74, and most people know the PSCM in connection with African Liberation Day, because since 1975 it's been putting on African Liberation Day,
yeah.
and it's been doing that continuously up until this very day. Our last one was in May, which we had Dr. Ashakwesi, which came to this very studio and gave a talk. So next year, still on, we are planning in the planning stage, and it will be held in Birmingham at the new Legacy Center.
So, just to say that African Liberation, is it now going to be in Birmingham now, or?
Yes, it's going to be in Birmingham. It has been held in Birmingham.
I remember it's been in Birmingham every 2 years. Remember way back before.
But no, for the last good few years it's been in Birmingham, because
I know the last few years, but previous to that,
previous to that, it used to move around a lot. We used to have it in Birmingham, Manchester, London, Bristol, to take it up and down the country. But 2 things, logistically and just in terms of numbers as well.
Because I know it's
it
quite
was
active.
decided that, and then sometime when, say for instance, we hold it in London, people in Liverpool and Newcastle would say, boy, it's too far.
What's understandable.
And that would be their thing. If we held it in Liverpool or Manchester, people in London were saying it's too far. So there was a compromise made. Let's hold it in the middle. Right? Let's hold it in Birmingham. So it's equal. So the people in the Midlands are right. But then people in London have got too far, or people in Manchester have got too far. So for the past, and plus Birmingham in terms of logistics is the best place in terms of the venues and the people that we can generate to put it on. It is the most appropriate place at the moment. So that's why for the past few years, it's been held in Birmingham.
Because, if I'm not mistaken, I think 2 years ago you had Umar Johnson.
Well, we had Umar Johnson in 2015. Yes, and then if I was to mention some of the people that's passed with ALD, people would be, you name them. Name who hasn't. I mean, that's what I always say to people. Try and think of a name and I'll tell you if they haven't. Because over the years, we have had most people. I mentioned Karanka, Malana Karanka, who started Kwanzaa. We've had him at ALD a couple of times. A lot of them now ancestors. Long gone, like Van Sertima, long gone Jacob Carruthers, long gone Julia Nathan Hay, they're long gone Francis Cress Welshin, she's with the ancestors, Dr. Ben, John Henry Clark, Queen Mother Moore, all of them been through. So it's a thing that people, from the years I've been involved and way before I become involved, because part of the idea of African Liberation Day, like when I talk about Pan-Africanism, part of the thing with Pan-Africanism is bringing our people together. So we can discuss our business amongst ourselves. So, for example, Dr. Ben, right? Dr. Ben's around. Dr. Ben was saying a lot of good things and everything, and we needed to talk to Dr. Ben. So we invite him to come over and sit down with him, that people can talk to him.
Well, don't forget, you had did he come African Liberation Day? Marcus Garvey's son.
Marcus Garvey's son.
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey Jr. Yeah, we have brought him over. It wasn't exactly an African Liberation Day, but when you see in Tottenham, there's a library called the Marcus Garvey Library. And I discovered, living in Tottenham now, a lot of people do not know the history behind that library. They have no idea why it's called the Marcus Garvey Library, how it came about, how it came to be there. They have no idea.
That was due to Marcus Garvey's son.
Well,
yeah. Okay.
1987 was Marcus Garvey's centenary,
Yeah,
his
yeah,
100th
yeah.
birthday. And it was decided something big had to be done. So, in London, a committee was put together. I know Pepper Kai was very instrumental in it, and some other personality that a lot of people would be familiar with. And they approached Haringey Council. That time, I think Bernie Grant was instrumental in the council and said, look, we want to put together something to honor Marcus Garvey. So that's how the idea of the Marcus Garvey Library was born.
Yeah.
And then Marcus Garvey Jr. was actually brought over specifically to lay the foundation stone of that library. He was the one that laid that cornerstone for that library, and he gave a big lecture as well. So that's how the library came about. It was called the Marcus. If you go to the Art Center, you'll see the original poster. We have it up of how that library came about. So when Haringey tried to move on it and close it down, and documents were pulled out and thrown in front of them, and most of those councillors had no idea. No idea. That's why. That's the only reason Marcus Garvey Library is still there and is still bearing the name. Because if they had their way, there'll be no library, it'll be long gone. But when they saw documents signed, sealed, delivered, saying this, they had to back off. You know? And that's the reason. So, like I'm saying, come along to the Mama Art Center if you'd like to know more about the history behind the Marcus Garvey Library, why it's called the Marcus Garvey Library and how it came about. And in fact, Marcus Garvey, that year as well, Queen Mother Moore. Now, Queen Mother Moore was very significant, that she was a pivotal mover in the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the organization set up by Marcus Garvey. And she actually came over and Marcus Garvey centenary, and the major event for that centenary was held in Manchester.
Manchester, okay.
It was held in Manchester for one of the reasons being that the 5th Pan-African Congress in 1945 was held in Manchester. And the personalities that was at that conference went to transform Africa. You had people like Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere, you had Amy Ashwood Garvey, you had, I think, W.E.B. Du Bois, you had the major George Padmore, and so forth, who went on to do a massive transformation in Africa. So in honor of that, the main centenary event was held in Manchester.
Okay, we're going to have a very short break. And then we'll continue the reasoning.
Run through an F and wall. Once you know what the patterns are, you can get rid of the ones that don't work and adopt some of the ones that do more often. And that's a good part of what we're going to do the next few days to give you perspective. But the most important pattern to understand is why people do what they do. So as I told you, I've had a unique gift. I've had the chance to travel the world at this stage of life where literally the world is available to all of us in a few hours. But what I want you to understand is everybody has a reason for what they do, but the good news is there's only 6 reasons. There are lots of different stories, but I can tell you by experience being around the world, there's only 6 reasons. And those 6 reasons are called the 6 human needs. And I'm going to walk you through these. Now, I need you to manage your state for the next few minutes because we're going to go a little deeper on content, but we're going to do it only so in the future for the next 3 days when somebody stands up, you're going to look at them and you're going to go, what's driving them? And I'm going to ask you, which of these needs are driving them? Because once you know what drives somebody, you know how to meet their needs. Or you can predict their behavior and see whether or not they're the right corporate match, personal match, intimate match, because you have to understand it. So what are these 6 needs? They are not goals, they are not desires. If you travel with me around the world, you'll see every culture has different goals, everybody has different desires, but we all have the same needs. What are they? Number 1 is the need for certainty. Certainty. Now what the hell is certainty? Certainty is a survival need. We all need to feel certain that we can avoid pain and that ideally we can have some comfort. Why? Because continuous pain would mean continuous damage. Continuous damage eventually means death. So the need for certainty is built into every human being, and I'm going to show you now in the next few minutes, if you stay with me, and I really need you to, so make sure you sit up in your chair and focused on this area, because after this we're going to kick in gear again, but right now you got to take this in. It'll be so valuable, not just for this weekend, but for your life. All human beings have the same 6 needs, so why do we behave differently? Because the only thing different in people is 2 things. We all have the same 6 needs, but we don't value them equally. Some people, certainty is the number one thing they value. And if they're certainty driven and you try to change anything, they freak out. They get fearful, or they get angry, or they get pissed off, because what matters most to them is keeping things the same way where they feel like they're in control. Raise your hand if you follow. That's an example. Some people, they value love much more than certainty. Some people value certainty more than love. So even though they love you, if they don't feel certain, they won't open completely. Right? Just as one example. So the difference in people, we all have the same 6 needs. The difference is which of the top 2 you value most out of these 6. Because these top 2 determine your direction in life. And direction, if you keep moving in direction, it leads you to an ultimate destination or destiny. So we want to understand what your top 2 needs are. And same thing with other people. This weekend, when somebody stands up, often I'll say, what's driving him right now? And I want you to see, within a very short time, 8,000 people from 44 countries will all be saying the same thing. Because it'll be that obvious to you. You'll be a practical psychologist by the time we're done here. So now, if we know what these needs are, and the person values them differently, we also have to find out 2 people could have the same need, but they have a different belief about what it takes to be loved. Or a different need about what it takes to be certain. Some people to be certain need $10 billion. Some people to be certain just need to pray to God. Some people to be certain need to feel like they have 3 perfect children and they're there every day. Some people that feel certain because I've always figured it out. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I'll figure it out, because I always have. You can get certainty from your past. You get certainty from God. You get certainty by working out intensely. You get certainty by eating food. Too much food especially will put comfort in your body. If you overeat, all the blood goes in your stomach. You start breathing again. So we all need certainty. The only question is it number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 on your list? And the second question is, what does your brain say has to happen to be certain? Some people have certainty that's impossible to meet. The young lady over here who was sitting in the chair before we intervened had a blueprint that's never going to be met. It literally would make her unhappy regularly. So we got to know what needs you're after and what's your blueprint. How many get a feeling, at least, what I'm explaining here right now? It makes some sense to you. Say, I. Awesome. So the first need is certainty. How can we meet our need for certainty? We can do it in ways that are positive, neutral, or negative. I can get certainty in a heartbeat if all I want to do is get really pissed off and freaked out about something. When you get angry, do you get certain, yes or no? You better believe it. So some people get angry all the time because it's their way to get certainty in a life that's uncertain. It has all kinds of negative side effects, but it works in the moment. So listen to me now. Most people meet their needs in a way that works in the moment, but not long term. So they feel good for a short time, like a sugar high, and then they drop emotionally, and they got to do it again, whether it's food or smoking or drinking or whatever it is. So you can meet your needs in positive ways, neutral ways, or negative ways. So if I came along here and I said, what's your name, sir? Chase. Chase, I want to make a deal with you. How much do you weigh? 246. We're going to weigh you in 5 minutes. He says he weighs 246. If you're within that range, I'm fine. Here's my deal. I will give you, I'm going to put $50 million US cash tonight into an escrow account for you. They're going to weigh you. If you lose 50 pounds tomorrow morning by 8:30 a.m., you will receive that 50 million, otherwise I get it back. Can you do it, yes or no? No? Sure you can. Take off a leg, take an arm, we can get your ass there. There's no question, Chase. Is the goal obtainable, yes or no? Is it achievable? Is it obtainable, yes or no? But it's not sustainable, and that's how most people meet their needs. They use a drug or alcohol or food or cigarettes or something to get comfortable, to get certainty back. But the problem is it has side effects long term. Works in the short term, doesn't the long term. Raise your hand if you follow. Say I. So you could get certainty by overeating or smoking or drinking. What happens when you smoke a cigarette? Take a deep breath in and you blow it out nice and long and slow, full exhale. When most of you are stressed, how many have noticed that you either stop breathing or you breathe really shallow? How many have noticed this in the past? So you smoke a cigarette, and in the moment, it meets your need for comfort and certainty. It's killing you, but it works short term. That's how most people live their life. You can get certainty by working out. If you go on a run really intensely, or you go lift weights, and you push yourself, and all that blood starts pulsing through you, do you feel certain, yes or no? And what's the downside? Zero. So there are ways to meet your needs that are empowering, neutral, or disempowering. The parts of our life we don't like are problems. Why would we keep a problem? We're all capable of solving it. Why would we keep a problem? The only reason you have a problem that's stuck around is because it meets some of your needs. Not all of them, or you wouldn't want to get rid of it. But enough of them that it makes it hard to give up. It's kind of like, who's ever been in a relationship way too long? Let me see a show of hands. And how many knew it was wrong while you were there? Let me see a show of hands. So why the F did you stay there? Because of the uncertainty. Because, well, I'm not thoroughly happy. I'm kind of unhappy, but I might be worse if I was totally alone. What if this is the best one I'm ever going to get and I screwed it up? But what happened was most of you had that feeling, talked yourself back down into the relationship multiple times until one day you hit a threshold where your brain went, it was painful in the past, it's painful in the present, it's going to be painful in the future, I'm out of here. Who's done this before? Say I. So there is a threshold that we can find, and if we find that threshold, we can break through it pretty damn easily. We can shift, we can get to where we really want to go. So what I want you to get is, of these 6 needs, we all find a way to meet them. The only difference again is which are your top 2 out of the 6, and I've told you certainty so far, and what are your beliefs or rules or what's your blueprint on how to get that. Her blueprint was please everybody, which is impossible, so it won't work. Raise your hand if you follow, okay? So let's take a look. What's the second human need? Well, first of all, you can get certainty in so many ways. You get certainty by praying to God. You can get certainty by doing a ritual the same way every time. You can get certainty by lowering your expectations, saying nothing ever works, nothing ever will, everybody screws things up. You'll lose your dream, but you'll gain your need. By the way, jot this down. People will give up their goals and dreams to meet their needs. People will give up their goals and dreams. They'll even give up their own values to meet their needs. I'll give you an example. How many of you in this room consider yourself to be an honest person, very honest person? Raise your hand if you consider yourself to be very honest. Raise your hand nice and high. Okay, drop your hand. Raise your hand if you lie. Let me see your hands if you lie. You can explain it to me, will you? Here's how it works. See, in your mind, you know who you are. Why would someone lie who values honesty? No one told you to be honest. You want to be honest. Because if you think being honest is going to cost you one of your needs like love or certainty, you'll lie. You'll call it a white lie, but you'll lie. Who knows what I'm talking about? Now, there's some people that never lie because they value certainty of always telling the truth so much. Right? It has to do with their rules or their belief structures. Does this make sense? So, tell me something. You can meet the need for certainty so many ways, right? So here's the question. You can go ahead. Here's the question. What if you were certain every moment of your life what was going to happen before it happened? What if you knew what people are going to say before they're going to say it? What if you could feel what they're going to feel? What if you knew every moment before it happened what people are going to say and do? In the beginning, that would feel really exciting. But after a while, if you know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, tell me what you're going to feel after a while. What are you going to start to feel? Tell me. What? Bored out of your mind. That's why God, in her infinite wisdom, gave us a second human need. And that second human need is uncertainty. We have a need for uncertainty. We have a need for surprise. We have a need for variety. In fact, what's the phrase? Variety is the what of life? Spice of life. Now, how many of you in this room, raise your hand, how many of you in this room love surprises? Raise your hand if you love them. Say aye. Bullshit. You love the surprises you want. The surprises you don't want, you don't want. You call them problems, don't you? So don't tell me you like surprises. You like the surprises you want. Here's my point. Can you meet more than one need with the same action or emotion or belief system? Yes or no? Write this down. Anytime your mind perceives that doing something, believing something, or feeling something meets at least 3 of your needs. So anytime your mind perceives that doing something, feeling something, or believing something meets at least 3 of your needs, then you will become addicted to that thought, that feeling, that emotion, or that action. You can be positively addicted or negatively addicted, but you're going to be addicted. Anytime your brain perceives that something you believe, do, or feel meets 3 of your needs, you'll get addicted to it. Now, I'm going to show you why this is important. Let's look at 2 needs for a second. Is it possible to meet your need for certainty and uncertainty simultaneously, even though they're opposite needs, yes or no? I'll give you an example. Who here has ever rented a movie that you've already seen? Let me see a show of hands. Get a life. Now, I've done it too. Why would we rent a movie we've already seen? We'd rent it, why? Because we've seen it before, so we're certain it's good, and we're hoping it's been so long we forgot enough it'll be variety when we watch it again. Who knows what I'm talking about here? Say aye. So you can meet both needs, but if you meet 3 needs, you'll become addicted to that behavior. Whether it's a good behavior or bad behavior, doesn't matter. It'll be a positive addiction or negative addiction, but you'll be addicted. So let me give you how do you get variety? You get variety in positive ways, negative ways, or neutral ways. You get variety by learning, growing, taking on a new goal, a new challenge. You can get variety through a conversation with a friend. You get variety by praying to God. There's so many ways to get variety, aren't there? But you can also get variety in negative ways. You can smoke a joint, and maybe that's not a negative way, but it sure will change your state. But it has side effects, right? During that time, you're not going to function maybe at the same peak or understanding. Or some people use other things, cigarettes, alcohol, anything. There's so many ways to get variety. The question is, are your ways positive, neutral, negative, or empowering? How many follow? Because we all have ways of getting that variety, that uncertainty. So here's what I want you to do. 3rd human need is significance. The need to feel unique. The need to feel special.
Yes, greetings, sisters and brothers. I'm Tamera Gabriel here with Bless FM. Thanks and praise to the Most High. Bless this radio station and all who work in her and all who maintain her and serve her and serve the community. I'm here in the studio now with my brother here. And your name is again, brother?
Yeah, Brother Taharkah.
Brother Taharkah. And we're on the subject of Kwanzaa. Have I said it correctly?
Yes, that's right.
How do you spell that, brother?
Kwanzaa, there's 2 spellings of Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa as in how it would be used in everyday language in, say, Tanzania or Kenya or Uganda is Kwanza.
Okay.
That's Kwanzaa. But Kwanzaa as in the celebration is Kwanzaa. So
right.
Kwanzaa, the celebration, has 2 A's.
2 A's.
So that's the
differentiation.
Yeah, that's how you differentiate them.
And what does it mean, brother?
Kwanzaa literally means the first fruits.
First fruits.
You know, as Kwanzaa, the celebration.
Yes.
Kwanzaa, as in Kwanzaa in everyday speech, means first. Like
First fruits. Would that be going back to the days when we celebrated the first fruits of the harvest?
Precisely, you're bang on. That's what it means when you bring in the harvest.
Yes.
And the first fruits. That's what the celebration's based on.
Yes. And we celebrate the first fruits, thanking our Creator for a good harvest and stuff like that.
That's right. So what you'll find throughout Africa, you'll find these celebrations take part. Like in West Africa, the yam festivals in Ghana, Nigeria.
Right.
Even in Jamaica, in July every year they have the yam festival.
Okay.
Big yam festival, which is going right back to the African roots. So you see, and right throughout the African world, you'll find that's a stable thing, that when we bring in the harvest, there's a big celebration. And that is what Marlano Karanga based Kwanzaa around those celebrations, and it came out of that.
And does it start it's the same day for every part of Africa, or is it different regions celebrate it?
Well, Kwanzaa, as it's celebrated now, it's a celebration that was started in 1966. So when we say Kwanzaa, you would link that to Dr. Marlana Karanga, who brought that about. And that was first celebrated in California in America, where he lives, in 1966. And then it slowly spread out till now. It is celebrated right throughout America, right throughout Africa, right throughout the Caribbean, right throughout Europe. So it's truly become a global Pan-African true celebration.
And it's not something that actually started on the continent of Africa, but in California.
Well, the roots of it is on the continent.
Yes.
But he took the ideas back to America and put this festival together as a means, because as he says, when he looked around him, when he looked around in America towards African people's doing, he saw that they had lost their way in a way. They was trying to embrace Christmas, Easter, these different celebrations, but it didn't quite fit. There was something missing. That soul, the African soul, wasn't there. So he wanted to put something together that they could still have this big celebration, but that essence, that African spiritual essence is present. And that's what Kwanzaa gives you.
And what other things are being expressed in this celebration? He's celebrating the first fruits, but what other activities go with it?
Well, as I said earlier, Kwanzaa is based around 7 principles. And in Kiswahili, we refer to them as the Nguzo Saba. Nguzo Saba means the 7 principles. So throughout the 7 days of Kwanzaa, we celebrate each principle in turn. Now, on the 26th of December is principle number 1. That's when Kwanzaa starts, and that's Umoja, meaning unity. So the principle for that day is unity. So wherever Kwanzaa is celebrated, that's the principle for the 26th, would be unity. Then the 27th of December, the principle for that day is Kuji Chakalia, meaning self-determination. So again, wherever Kwanzaa is being celebrated, it's the principle of self-determination. Then after self-determination, the 3rd principle is Ujima. Ujima meaning collective works and responsibility. And you can see we go on. The 4th principle is Ujama. And Ujama meaning cooperative economics. And principle number 5 is Nia.
How do you spell that?
N-I-A.
N-I-A.
Yeah,
Nia.
Nia. And Nia is the meaning purpose.
Purpose.
Yeah. And then the 6th principle is Kuwumba.
Spelled with a Q or a K?
A K.
Yeah.
Kuwumba meaning
K-U...
K-W.
K-W.
Yeah, M-A.
K-W-M-A?
So U-U.
K-W-U.
Wait, hold on. Just Kuwumba. Anyway, I think it's K-U-U-A-M-A.
All right, K-U-U-A-N-A.
Yeah.
Right.
Kuwumba. And that's creativity.
Creativity.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the final principle and the 7th principle is Imani.
Imani.
Yeah.
I-M-A-N-I?
Yes. I-M-A-N-I. That's it. Meaning faith.
Faith.
Yeah.
Well, that's the faith. That one there I've heard a lot in the Ethiopian Christian Orthodox Twahedo Church. It meant that Imani is a word that I hear quite often when I attend the church. And so that is faith.
So you'll find wherever you go in Africa, there's various aspects. You'll find various aspects of what they're doing within Kwanzaa.
Right.
So somebody will come, like I said, you recognize Imani from Ethiopia, and somebody else, another person might say, I recognize Umoja, or I recognize Ujama.
Yes.
So wherever you go in Africa, people can relate to it.
Yes.
And that was a fantastic work what Karanga did. He put a thing together that wherever you are as an African, you can relate to it.
I mean, I like how it starts off with unity, you know, because unity, you know, yes, yeah, we need to practice that. And I guess it's been very difficult for us to unite because we've been speaking about it for decades. I mean, I remember as a child, I grew up, my mother was a great black power, you know, she looked like a fanatic to me, you know, at the time. You know, she'd wear her BlackBerry and got all these books, you know, Eldridge Cleaver and Angela Davis and, you know, all the Soledad Brothers and blah, blah, blah. And by the time we got into the 70s, you know, seemed to be some sort of build up to some form of unity. But by the time we got to the 80s, it seemed to have fragmented completely, and it seemed to have come along, well, according to my observation, when cocaine and crack was introduced into the ghetto, so to speak. I'm sure it played a part in all that. But you know, we're still struggling to unite. Why do you think this is?
Okay, well, I always said, if you look at the time we've been under, 1, chattel slavery,
Yeah,
2, colonialism,
yeah.
3, imperialism. Now we put all the time together, slavery alone. If you look from the time the Portuguese entered what is now Congo
Yeah.
and start taking our people, that's 500 years ago, right? Now, after 500 years, when was chattel slavery outlawed, say in the British Empire? It was 1803.
Right.
When was it outlawed on the islands of the Caribbean? Say in Jamaica, for instance, we was told it was 1834.
Right.
When was it outlawed in the United States of America? 1864.
1864.
What about
yeah.
Cuba? 1898. So if you look, the time that we was under bondage to the time we have had, I would use the word advisedly in inverted commas, relative freedom or relative some kind of self-determination, which we don't really have. It is not surprising that we are not united.
We're not united.
Because
And yet,
I mentioned when I went to Africa first, because I'm coming from this side, an Anglophone country, immediately when I think about Africa, I'm thinking about, well, I have to go to Ghana or Nigeria or Zimbabwe, somewhere that speak English. But that's
Right.
where I feel comfortable.
yes.
And hence, the same applies to the Francophone zone or the Portuguese zone or whatever.
Yes.
So we're still divided because of what happened in 1884. For example, the Berlin Conference. And Africa was systematically carved up and handed, you take this, you take that, you take that. Now, that's our sphere of influence, so you stay to your bit and we stay to my, and a lot of Africans are still acting that out till this day. You know?
Yes, and well, I thought that under pressure, you know, sometimes you think that under pressure, a nation under pressure would be more united. It would bring us closer together because of the, you know, because of all the trials and tribulations that we're going through, and yet we fragmented. You know, because I've noticed, for example, I mean, I look at drug addicts and alcoholics, for example. I mean, they go through so much pain and suffering or whatever, and then they seem to gravitate towards each other, identify each other's pain, and they kind of support each other, you know, with these fellowships and things like that. And if only people support each other in all sorts of different adversities that they go into, and yet our adversity was such a, as you said, going over 5 centuries, has fragmented us to a point where a lot of people think it's impossible for us to become one people again.
But put it this way, I'm going to say, after what we have been through, the likes of which no other people have been through, when you look at history, no other people have been through the trials and tribulations that we have gone through. And despite that, when we talk about unity and we look at somebody like, say, Marcus Messiah Garvey, what did he manage to do in his lifetime? He managed to put an organization together with both over 1 million people, just members, let alone the influence that it had outside. So there've been always been an attempt, a strive to bring us back together, to unite. But remember, we are fighting against forces, great forces, whose interest, it is not in their interest to see us unite. So every time we make a move, they're going to try and break it up, mash it up. Look at Haiti. In the 17th century, they threw the French out, right? Took over the island, became independent. What did they do? They didn't just sit back on their laurels. They went out all over the Americas and helped those fighting for freedom, supporting them with arms that they had, money, everything. Reach out to them and say, no, we're going to help you now to free yourselves. You see, there's always a move for our people to come together. But we are fighting against great forces that's trying to keep us apart.
Indeed,
right?
indeed.
So, as long as we can recognize that we have an uphill struggle, that is not just a case that, oh, I see my brother or sister over there and let's get together. If it was that easy, we would all be hand in hand and be united. But like I mentioned, in Africa itself, which is the big prize, right? The French, for example, have a system where when Ghana in 1957 and Nkrumah asked for independence, and Ghana was given so-called independence. And Sakatore next door in Guinea saw that. And Sakatore says, we want independence also from the French. I went to the French and says, well, if Ghana can have independence, why can't we? And what was the French response to that? French turned around and says, look, you ungrateful so-and-so. We came here and we was the one that built this. So you want independence? Okay, I'll tell you what. They smashed up everything, razed everything to the ground, hospitals, buildings, you name it, schools, smashed everything up, and then said, here, take your independence now. Right? You can see that bloody mindedness. So as a consequence, the other Francophone countries then fell in some kind of line and said, okay, we don't want that happening to us, so let's talk to France and see what we can negotiate. So, as a consequence of that, you know what happened? As a consequence of that, the Francophone states says, right, one, in 1945, France will print our currency, which is safer. The currency is printed in France. Right? And all the Francophone countries now use that. Next thing France says, 50% of all your revenue must be banked in France. Right? So it's banked in France. So when you look at it in monetary terms, every year those countries hand over to France 50%. Over 500 million pounds is given to the French treasury.
I thought it'd be more than that.
Right? Well, it's a lot of money. Because when you think, what's the GDP of the largest economy in Africa? Right? The largest economy in Africa was Nigeria, and that's about the GDP or just under.
I mean, 500 million, I've heard of certain government ministers or whatever in Africa stealing billions, so they say, 2 billion here, 4 billion there. And if you've got all these nations, they're contributing 500 million.
No,
think.
not million, sorry, it's billion.
Oh, 500 billion. Oh, yeah, that's more. Yes, okay, I got it. Yes,
500
indeed.
billion.
That is another form of slavery,
But that's
really.
it. And then
Neo-slavery, they'd
you
call
have
that.
that currency there. If as an African government says, right, we need some of our money now to build such and such, we got to go capital to France and beg them for your own money.
My
And
goodness.
then if France turn around and say, okay, I'll release some money to you, but the money I release to you, I'm going to charge you interest on that. Even though it's your own money, you got to pay me interest. So you can see it locked those countries down. And anybody that come up and stand up against that or try to break free, the French used to systematically kill them. Thomas Sankara was systematically killed because he tried to break. Recently had Gbagbo in Cote d'Ivoire tried to break the system and they brought him down to earth straight away.
Yes.
They prevented him. So what I'm trying to say, if it was just a question that it was easy, it would be done.
Yes.
It's hard, it's a fight, it's a struggle. The Europeans do not want to let go of Africa. Because France, for example, if France was to forgo the 500 million, France is ranked as the 5th to the 6th largest economy in the world. You have USA, you have China, you have Japan, you have Germany,
Yes.
you have, say, France, Britain. You take that 500 billion away from France, and it would be about the Italian president came out and said France would be the 14th or 15th largest economy in the world. That's how, that's the difference that money is making to France.
Indeed.
Right, so they're going to hold on by any means necessary. And they're going to create, destabilize, assassinate, do whatever they need to do to destabilize the place to keep it. Now on Saturday I went to see a brother by the name of Kemi Siba. He was talking up in Holloway Road. And he's a brother that's very interesting. He's a brother that's been campaigning for many years against that currency. Because it's a form, like I said, of slavery, colonialism. You totally dominate the country by holding it to ransom.
Yes.
France decide if you go up or if it's devalued. It's not up to the country, it's up to France. They decide. So he's been fighting against that. And for his pains, he said he was jailed twice in France. As a young guy, 20-odd-year-old, fighting, they lock him up because they thought we can't afford for this to spread to other people.
Yes.
So eventually he left France and he went to live in Senegal. He said he lived there for 8 years. But his campaigning went on till he got to a stage where he burnt a 5,000 safer note.
Right.
Burnt it as part of the protest. And for that he was arrested, thrown in jail
What?
in Senegal. Then, while he was in jail, his story came out. And when people heard it, especially the youth, sympathized with him. So they started burning the currency,
Yes.
as a show of defiance. So what they did, they had to take him out of jail quickly and get him out of the country, deported him.
Right.
Not back to France where he was born, but to the Caribbean. As far away as they could get him. You see,
Yes.
because people were now waking up and saying, well, why don't we use this safer for the French?
Yes.
You see, so that's what I'm saying. When it comes to unity, there's a lot of things there in the background. You mentioned the Black Panther movement
Yes.
and such and such and such. Now, anytime you mention the Black Panther movement, you have to mention Contour Pro.
Who's that?
Contour Pro.
Consul Pro.
Contour Pro was the counter against the Black Power movement that the FBI had in place.
Okay,
So
yes.
the FBI set up, led by J. Edgar Hoover,
Hoover,
the
right.
same person who hounded Garvey, locked him up, and deported him from America. He was still around in the 60s, hounding people like the Black Panther Party and other progressive African revolutionary movements.
Right. Yes.
Using what they call Contour Pro, which is basically taking a lot of black people, piping up with money and stuff to destabilize and break up these movements because they saw them as a danger, because black people was beginning to find their voice, beginning to find a direction, which they didn't. As you mentioned again, they flooded the black community with cocaine and heroin and crack. That's all part of the program to destabilize and keep us disunited, fractious, all kind of things. That's part of the program. So as long as we understand that, it's not just a case that, oh, let's just get together in a room and nobody won't, pay us no mind, it's just up to us. If that was the case, it'd be fine. But if we get together, if 10 black people hire a hall to meet, they're going to wonder, what are they up to inside there? They're going to want to know. You see? So when we say it's difficult to unite, it's difficult, I would say we have made incredible strides. I look at it the other way. Considering where we are coming from, what was done to us, we have made incredible strides. Because when you look at the Native Americans, did they recover?
No.
Precisely. They went in there and they systematically wiped them out. Till now, there's a few, you count them in the thousands. No power, they lost everything. That's what they wanted to do to us. That's what they tried to do to us, but they found it difficult because we kept resisting. We kept resisting. If they had their way, we'd be in the same position. So I'm saying, I went to Gorée Island in Senegal. This was the #1 port through which Africans was taken out and shipped to the West. #1. They reckon, the figures are debatable, but I heard figures of 15 million African passed through that port. Whenever they give a figure, multiply it by at least 5. And it probably gives us a truer reflection of what would have happened.
And and also that figure, wouldn't it apply that a certain amount of a vast amount of them wouldn't have made it across the Atlantic?
That's it. Because the death rate was so high. Right. So that's what we have to look at. And my take on this is that, considering what has been done to us, when we look across, especially Africa, because Africa is a key. There's the African satellites around, like the Caribbean, the African population in North, South, Central America, the African population in the South Seas, in the Middle East, and so forth. But Africa is the linchpin. Once you can get that strong, you automatically would give confidence to any African, wherever they are. Hence, the case of China. As Malcolm used to say, there used to be a saying, you haven't got a Chinaman's chance. That's how China was disrespected, kicked about, seen. You haven't got a Chinaman's chance. China pulled in on itself, sorted itself out. So a Chinaman can walk down the Oxford Street or Regent Street and make the authorities mess with him and see what happens. Straight away, it called a diplomatic incident. Ambassador will be called and come and answer. What are you doing to our people? Now, black people are killed, kicked from pillar to post every minute. What government in any African countries come and say, hold on, leave my people, what you doing? You wait forever, it will never happen.
But also, wouldn't you say that sometimes blaming the government or blaming our past history of slavery causes some people to actually procrastinate, or should I say just stay entrenched in not doing anything? They say, well, I've been traumatized, and this is the best I can do. I can't, as so they cannot do any better than what they can because they have, they've been through so much traumatic experiences that have been handed down from generation to generation, and don't you think that instead of using it as something to drive us forward rather than making an excuse for being the way I am at the present moment?
Well, the way I look at it is this way. There's no denying. There's no denying. I mean, I think it's Dr. Joy McCreary came out with the term post-traumatic slave syndrome, which is deniably is the case. Because you cannot go through what somebody has gone through and not be scarred in some kind of way. And even if it's 6, 7, 10 generations ago, that is passed down from generation to generation. Because you see how, say, some African parents, I mean, I can use myself as an example. I was born in a parish, Jamaica, in St. Anne's.
Yes.
Right? And I could remember growing up, and when we talk about getting a beating, or when you see your mother or your grandmother beat, when I look back in it now and I said, my God, what it was like, without no mercy.
Savage, yes.
It was savage. I mean, when I look back in it critically, I said, but that was like a savage anger.
Yes.
Pent up anger coming out. Where's that coming from?
Yes.
You got to ask yourself, where's that coming from?
Yes.
Because you go to Africa, for instance, and the people who, although they went through some, never went through it in that kind of way. You see, because I was in a school in Africa, part of the thing I do is support the school. And I went to the school and I looked at the children, and the way the children were, and the interaction between the children and the adults, and the was just different. It wasn't what I was used to. It wasn't what I was used to. And I'm saying, but this is how it's supposed to be. This is, you know, when they, even though they're carrying some, but they're not carrying as much as us. And you can see what it can do to people. Now, you see, so undoubtedly we are damaged.
Yes,
we are damaged. But
indeed.
that's when we have to dig deep.
Yes.
That's when we have to dig deep. That's when we have to be strong. And again, back to our ancestors, if they didn't dig deep and they wasn't strong, I wouldn't be here. I definitely won't be here, because my mother, my grandmother, who I knew, my great-grandmother, who I knew, right, all living under the same roof, right, at the time. And my great-grandmother would relay things about her grandmother, right? And when I look back at it, he said, well, if then it wasn't strong and dig deep and pass on that experience, we would not have survived. I mean, you go to Australia, for instance, and you look at the native Australians, and what you see, a wholesale alcoholism, drugs. It's just like, I'm not saying everyone, but on the scale, a lot of them have just, they've been broken. They're just given. You see that, say on a reservation in North America, the drug, the alcohol, they've been broken. You know, till in the end, we've lost, and this, they just want to forget it. Now you go to Jamaica or Trinidad or Barbados, you get an element, but the vast majority is striving. Yeah, I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna get somewhere. I'm gonna make a better life for my children than I had, and you know, you see, they're still fighting. That fighting spirit is still there within us. That's the difference. You know, that's the difference, I think. So we look at people like Garvey, I mentioned before. Look at his background. Remember, Garvey was born in 1887. That means his father would most likely could have been born in slavery, just means, but his grandfather definitely would have been. So he had that contact, close contact, and still there was something in him that invigorated him, that he could get up and say, let's do something. At a time when people were still trying to recover, he was saying, let's put together an organization. He was using the word African. When it was unheard of by then, he was pushing for things that J. Edgar Hoover himself this man is too dangerous. That they had to use what they call mail fraud. They had to invent some crime to lock him up. And they couldn't find nothing to lock him up. So they invented something to lock him up in order to deport him, because he was having too much influence on the people in America, right? And he's just one example. The whole Black Panther movement that came out, you know, from Eldred Cleaver, Huey P. Newton, you know, all of them. What did they have again? That imagery, that drive, that self-determination influenced so many others.
Yes.
That they got up out of their slumber and said, "What?" I mean, Garvey could have been a comfortable. What he had, he could have lived a relatively comfortable life at that time. So could a lot of them. Could have just said.
Yes.
Because I remember my mother saying to me one time something when I joined the organization, and very active, going on demonstration, getting involved, and she just took me aside one time and said, "Look, man, I don't think, you know, basically, I don't want nothing to happen to you, because blah, if you go there, you know what's going to happen and blah." So I had to look at her and I had to say something like, "All right, I know she was her way." So I used Martin Luther King and I said, "Well, do you think what King did was wrong? For standing up and marching?" And she says, "No." I said, "Can't you see the benefit? Don't you think?" She said, "Yes, it's a good thing." I said, "Well, I'm just for it." She said, "No, but let somebody else do it." So that was it. Step aside, let somebody else do it, and then you then, once them lay the path, you can walk on it nicely, but don't want you to get. But sometimes, you know.
So let someone else. Let someone else do it. Mean ultimately give their life.
It could mean that. It could mean that.
Yes, because so many have given their lives.
Precisely. But once the prize is won, everybody have grabbed. Where's for me? We want peace. We want peace. But how many people are willing to be part of that movement?
Well, being that we're all traumatized from one degree to another, we're all sick people trying to get well. Would it mean then that we first have to get well within ourselves, be united in ourselves before we can be united with each other? Because obviously if I'm a fragmented soul and I'm trying to unite with you and you're a fragmented soul, you know, we're going to get a fragmented relationship, which isn't a united relationship, but a
my solution
fragmented
to
one.
that is a saying, each one teach one.
Yes, yes.
And there's also a saying that, right, if you take a glass and you drop it and you shut it into 100 pieces,
Yes.
those pieces can be put back together.
Absolutely.
Right. So what I'm trying to say, we draw on each other's
Other
strengths.
strengths. Yes, yes.
Right? I could be feeling down and I could be feeling, oh, and then another one, and I see another one with energy, and they pull me up.
Yes.
And I say, come on, and they encourage. And to me, that's the way forward.
Yes.
That's the way forward. And we use the term Pan-Africanism, meaning that we are not on our own. We could be in London thinking we are beaten down and we are this. The African in France is thinking the same. The African in Brazil is thinking the same. The one in America is thinking the same. But if we all bounce off each other, I mean, that's why African Liberation Day, we're always making a point to try and bring in speakers all from different areas to explain their situation.
Lovely.
That people can see that it's not just us thinking we are being harassed, we are being this. Or when they explain, sometimes they say, why we're well off compared to such and such, what they're going through. But you see, once you can share experience, then we can begin to devise solutions
Yes, brother.
to remedy that. Because one of the things that's really encouraging me now, you know, years ago, I remember it was said that Africans, they don't even use the term African today, black people outside of Africa now, the gap is too big. Time has been too long. We're totally different, right? We can never get back together. We're totally, you know, the time gap and everything is too long, so we speak a different language, we look at the world differently, we are different people. There can never be no coming back together. But that's been stood on his head.
Yes.
That's been proven so wrong. By every year, more and more people are moving back into Africa. I mentioned to Dougie earlier, a brother I knew when I first joined the organization, just going into retirement, was all ready to resettle back in Jamaica. I'm going to retire and I was going to go and pull my pension. I came back from Senegal and Gambia. I went on the LD stage, said something. His daughter approached me, said she would like to go. She went, she came back and ultimately persuaded him to go and have a look. And just by him going to have a look, his plans for the Caribbean went out the window and he ended up living out his days in Africa.
Whereabouts?
In the Gambia.
In Gambia.
And
Okay.
several people, there was another brother in Tanzania, he lived out his life. From Jamaica, he went straight and he never went back and he lived out his life. And you find incidents like that are happening more and more. We are reintegrating back.
Yes, well, I believe this is reuniting with the spirits of our ancestors, basically, which is the
And
fundamental
it's like
to our
when
whole
they tell
being.
you, when you get there, you're going to feel alien, you're going to feel like a fish out of water. They don't like you because of such and such. And I've been to Africa how many times? And I could say, speaking personally, that's foolishness.
So a lot of it was propaganda, really.
course,
That was,
it's
you
propaganda.
know, seeing black men in stirring a white man in a pot, you know, that mean cooking him, getting
That's
ready
right.
to eat, and
And it's funny to say that.
I remember
It's funny
seeing
to
those
say that.
things in the
I'll
60s,
give you-
actually.
I turned it on its head
Yeah.
and give it a true notion of that. I mentioned in Birmingham, one of our members goes to the Congo every 2 years.
Yeah,
Beanie brings people down to the Congo every 2 years.
yeah.
And he came back one time with this picture of this cooking pot. No lie, this cooking pot is about, the diameter is about the size of this room. Probably about 6-7 foot high. Now, cooking pot. Now, the image we used to see, missionary soup. Show the missionary and them and the Africans dancing around, cooking them. Turned that on his head. It was the Africans in the cooking pot.
Pot, yes,
The white
absolutely.
man dancing around. That's what they did.
Absolutely, yes. They ate, they even
They
chewed
used
our
to
bones.
Put them in the pot.
Yes.
I've got a picture that I think it's in the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Came across it on one of the sites, Boyce Wilkins site, and they showed it when they do it in the Caribbean. Every so often, something, and there's when they're boiling sugar, and there's a throw slave inside the sugar, right, and all kind of things. So all that myth is the Africans cooking us. The Europeans. It was the opposite way around.
Absolutely.
And after independence, so-called, in Congo, they tried to systematically smash up all of them to destroy the evidence. But people found some, hid it. So I said, when you go in the bush in Congo, you'll find it, but they drill holes in them so the water drains out so it don't just rust away. And the evidence is there. And then he took the picture and came back and said,
My
there's
goodness.
the evidence.
Yes.
What they was trying to hide of the things they was up to. So you
Yes.
see, like I'm saying, now the movement back to Africa is unstoppable. And it's not just back, it's to and fro. Because I know a sister, she lives in Uganda, and she's in Grenada, and she's here. You know Washington.
Yeah,
She just move, bum, 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 with ease.
And she come
That's
here,
beautiful.
Comfortable.
and she come here now and then to visit her family.
Oh, yeah, it's always here.
Yeah,
Most likely, I must hear this Kwanzaa. But I'm just saying, she's in Africa, as comfortable as whatnot. And she's back in Grenada every minute, and she's here. And you find more and more that is happening, that people are finding Africa isn't this no-go area that we was told, no. So that unity
Yes.
that they're trying as hard as they can, they cannot.
Can't be
Unity,
stopped.
because like I said, I went to Africa first in '92, and I married my wife in '94, and ever since I've been in and out of Senegal, because that's where my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and the people that came with me, I brought them to the house, and they were saying, they sat down, and one sister said, "Man, it seems like they really accept you." You really accepted it? And I just laughed. And I said, well, I'm home. I mean, what's the...
Yes.
Because she couldn't believe the interaction, everything was just... And I said, this is how it's supposed to be,
Yes.
you know? But this group, you know, this kind of group, they don't marry foreign. I said, I'm not a foreigner. If I see myself in a foreigner, that'd be a barrier, but I see myself as an African, like them.
Absolutely.
And they are open-minded enough to see me as an African. It's not just, oh, they're foreigner, you know. Yes, well, I say, for instance, when I met my wife, she didn't speak a word of English. I don't speak French, and I never spoke Wolof. And yet, we communicated.
And look at that. Love
We
power.
communicated. Right, and people say, but how? I say, I don't know. There's a will, there's a way.
Yes.
We communicate, because I'm not supposed to be going to Francophone. And because, you know, we're supposed to not be able to just blow
Yes.
that myths apart. And you find that's happening over and over again. So I think unity, back to your
Yes.
question, unity is much more advanced than we think,
You're right.
right? For all these things happening in the streets, youths killing each other, for every youth that kill a youth, there's 100 youth doing positive things that never get reported on,
Absolutely.
right?
I
They
agree
pick up
with
the
that.
one and say, they go to Africa, they pick up they look, search for a little bad incident or bad, and
Yeah.
amplify it and say, this is what it is.
Yes.
And when you go there, most people are living their lives, making progress, moving on.
Yes.
You know, and that's what is up to us to put that side of the story now.
Yes.
I mean, and that's part of my thing, the trips that I'm doing now, to come back and show people, look, this is the situation.
So would this lead up to, this is part of our self-determination, is to get back to Africa?
That's it. Feel at ease. I'm not saying, as Garvey said, every man and woman is not going to go back and live, because now we own certain territories. We're in the Caribbean. A lot of people are going to say, boy, I mean, now give up Jamaica. No, should they? Their blood, sweat, and tears have gone to build that.
Yes.
To me, that's just an extension of Africa. But if you want to go to Africa at any time, feel free. Just go, stay a month, stay 6 months, stay a day, stay whatever you like, and come. Go and go 100 times, as many times. You should just feel free to in and out. Don't let that barrier be in your way that they try to put down. And the more of us go, and the more the people on the ground see us. I was watching a video last night on YouTube about, they were saying Gambia is the Jamaica in Africa or something. Because, you know, they love their reggae, and they love their this and everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
And I'm saying, you see, whatever they do, they cannot stop the tide. So when they went through this door of no return, that's the famous thing they show you. Oh, the door of no return. And it was when my sister-in-law, when she saw me, she says, the door of no return has returned. Basically, she's trying to say that door, what they said of no return, is now the door of return.
So
People are coming back
Yes.
straight through that door, coming back, you know. And that's
Yes.
once, you know, we have been badgered and battered and beaten so much that we have this psychological trauma that a lot of us find it difficult to get over. Because I remember arguing with my grandfather the first time I went. And the following year, I went to Jamaica. And then, but while I was there, what I did, I sent a postcard to prove that I was there. Because I know they said they weren't going to believe me. Yeah. I sent a postcard, write a
Yes.
postcard, send it to Jamaica. As I said. And now when I go and say, then I said, yalla, nah. And
They don't believe it.
then, so then I took some photographs. And I bought some photographs, and we were sitting around like this, and I put the photographs on the table and said, guess where this is? And they looked on it. Wow, that place is nice, man. It must be such and such. It must be Trinidad, or it must be another part of the Caribbean. And when I tell them it's Africa, you lie. You lie. Now, it's funny, all the younger ones, their reaction was, well, I don't want to go to Africa, you know, can you get me a pen friend or get me something, well, you know. But the older ones, drilled in their way. But why the things of them people then? I don't know. I just had to laugh and say, look, Well, you go, you see, you come back and you tell you, no go so. Right? Because obviously there was a locked in away, because most of them never left Jamaica in their life. They never even left Jamaica. So, you know, they just closed in that closed world, believe everything they've been ever told. There was for me and others to go and break that wall down and say to them, this is not the case. This is the case.
Okay. The question I want to ask you, if all your experience, your knowledge in terms of worldwide traveling, I've been involved in organization, how do you see the future of black people, not in the UK but worldwide? How do you see the future, and does it look grim, bright? I just want to get your crystal view on things here, because to me you've been and you've seen things and you've reasoned so much people, and so I just want to get your
Well, to me, I'm an optimist, and I say the future is bright. From what I've seen, the future is bright. One of the things I said, when I was in Senegal, I went to a school. The oldest child in the school would have been about 9, 10. And just to see the way they were, and you know, the enthusiasm, the curiosity, that eager to learn. I said, boy, the future is bright. The future is bright, because Africa itself is on the up. You see, technology, modern technology has bad points, but it has good points. Now, while I was there, I could just go on the WhatsApp and I could be chatting to people in Jamaica, chatting to the people back here, chatting to the people in Africa, and linking them up, make them chat to each other, and then could be picking up the phone and saying, yeah, Jeffter, this is the house, remember? That's where you're born, and showing them in Africa, right? And likewise, I'm filming things and said, look, when we're there, and them seeing it, you know? So, you know, a lot of things come tumbling down straight away. That them see me there, them see for themselves, I'm showing them in Africa. You see the house? That's the very house I was born in. That's Jamaica. So, you know, it's both.
The world has shrunk.
The world has shrunk. And especially the young children, they're looking fascination. And saying, yeah. And I said, well, if you want to go to Jamaica, you can go. You know, one day you can go, and likewise, they will come here. And they're excited about that. Now we know the so-called powers are sitting back, and they're not excited. So they're going to be now, right, plan B, bring out plan C, bring out plan D, bring out plan Z, right? What can we do to disrupt this? What can we do to stop this? What can we... But I think it's reached a point now that there's so much channels of communication. It's gone beyond that. It's gone beyond that. So no doubt they'll come up with different strategies to do different things. But in terms of people connecting with people, they can't stop that unless they're going to shut down our internet and shut down everything, which, you know, their people protest more than most. So they can't do that.
I mean, I notice a lot of black people, instead of going to Africa, they go to Spain or to the Mediterranean, I think, because it's, in many cases, a lot cheaper. I mean, they have
That's
actually
true. That's true.
the
Definitely
fares
cheaper.
to the Caribbean and Africa
Definitely cheaper.
are pretty exorbitant, especially
Definitely
at certain
cheaper.
times of the year. And so I suppose that's also part of the plan, would you say, in
Well, definitely.
keeping us divided from our motherland. And
Definitely part of the plan is to
And
hike
from-
the fares, make it as expensive as possible. So imagine, if it's expensive to me to go there, imagine how expensive it is for somebody there to come
to
here.
come in.
First,
My
you go for a
goodness.
visa, then when they charge you something like £200, and then kind of turn around and says no. No reason given, nothing, and you lose your money. Right? And you see, so they make it as difficult as possible. But despite that, despite what they did, we are still finding ways to come together.
Absolutely.
We're still finding ways to come together. When I met my wife, was a time that people said, why are you going to bring her here? You can't do that. It's going to be impossible. And I said, I don't believe in that word. I don't believe in that word. There's always a way. If you're prepared to sit down and study the system and do certain things, there's always a way.
Absolutely.
And there's always a way to move around. And, you know, and like I'm saying now, the world has shrank. And we can see each other for what we really are as African people and our different. You know, another thing was I found, you know, people go, they're right, culture is different. So you got a situation where in Africa a lot of people would sit, as a family, they would sit around one big bowl and they would be people, go no, you know, there's certain things to overcome and there's certain things, but after, to me, as I said to people, just sit down and think about it. Be logical and think. And first, do you accept you're an African? That's the first question. If you said yes, then most of the problems. If you say no, then we got plenty of
Big
work
problems, a lot of hurdles.
Precisely. So from you accept, I say, okay, let's look at it this way. Do you accept that slavery existed?
Yes.
Right? So you do accept that Europeans went, took Africans, brought them up over, was dropped off all over the place, Caribbean, South America, North America. So you accept that. So you accept your ancestry is from such and such and such.
Yes.
Right? Once you can do that, let's just work back. I said, okay, let's do this experiment. I'm going to bring you to Moscow, right? And I'm going to drop you in the middle of Moscow. And you might say, well, there's no black people. And then you look around, you see a black face. Do you ask first where them come from? Are you going to say, boy, I wonder if them Caribbean, I wonder if them from the chances are your heart just jump to see somebody look like you in that environment. You just gravitate towards them.
Yes.
The first question is another black, wow.
Yes, yes.
Person,
yes.
you're not business.
Yes.
That them can say, I'm from South Africa, I'm from Ghana. At that time, that doesn't matter.
Yes, indeed.
You just see your reflection.
Absolutely.
And that pulls you to them straight away.
Absolutely.
And that's how it is.
Coming on to in the spirit of Kwanzaa, we've gone through unity, a bit of self-determination. What about you, Jima? What does that mean?
Collective works and responsibility.
Collective work and responsibility, which is also included in what we were talking about. We're working our way back to the motherland for
That's
one,
it.
collectively, and the responsibilities.
collectively.
And what are our responsibilities?
But to me, responsibilities, I see my responsibility as this. If I get through, I have a friend, Tagel, and Tagel always just say, boy, if I get through, it's up to me to help my fellow man them to get through as well.
Right.
Not I get through, so I pull up the ladder, close the drawbridge and say, well, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I don't want too much of it here, going to make it difficult for me.
Yeah.
So part of the responsibility is for us to look out for each other.
Yes,
To me,
yes.
that's part of the responsibility, for us to look out for each other as a
Yes.
people.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter where. If I'm walking down the street and see any black person in distress, it is my responsibility to go over and find out what's going on. Not
Right.
just to just say, nothing to do with me, don't want to know, no.
Yes.
Because it could be you could turn that on his head and it's me in distress. And they
Yes.
say, boy, help. And they say, mind them just look and walk away. No,
Yes.
that's part of responsibility. We look out for
Indeed.
each other.
Okay then. Time is up. The next DJ's coming in the house right now. So, Taharkah, boy, I have to give thanks for your time and your knowledge. We have to do a part 2 definitely in the near future. very near future. So I want to give thanks to you, Tar, for coming into the studio and sharing some information. So much you sharing with us, and we have to do a part 2. You know, so give thanks to Tamera, give thanks to Bless Red, give thanks to Leon, and it's really been a fantastic time. Just when I'm gonna tell you some reasoning, like it's stories, and it's not even stories, you know. It's just the well, they are stories still, but the truth and the truth and the truth. Okay then.
Yes, blessing, God.